The time is 6:03 p.m. Sorry, I just, of course, lost my place and my computer just... For those of you who have just joined us after closed session, welcome to this hybrid regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I am Lisa Pelosi, Board President, and I would like to introduce my fellow trustees, Laura Simon, Sean Mora, Jeannie Kerr, Jean Marie Wolfe. I would also like to introduce our district staff. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And our student representatives, as I looked at you, and Sunny Calder, my sincere apologies. I obviously need to take a moment here. So I would also like to introduce our district staff, Superintendent, Dr. Jody McClay, welcome for your first meeting. Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Christopher Heller. Chief Business Official, Dr. Kay Vang. Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board, Ms. Erica Madrigal. Director of Educational Services, Mrs. Araceli Roma Flores. Our Director of Community Liaison, Ms. Selene Robledo. Director of Technology, Derek Machado in the back there. Also, additional site administrators are with us this evening. St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Benjamin Cinto. RLS Middle School Principal, Mr. Andrew Ryan. St. Helena Elementary School Principal, Dr. Carmen Emery. And our St. Helena Primary School Principal, Mrs. Rebecca Rocha. We are delighted that you are viewing in person, on Zoom, on television channel 27, or on our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting will be available on our website at www.sthelienaunified.org. In connection with items 4A, 4B, and 4C, the board received information and provided staff with direction. If you would please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we did have an amended, God, hold on, let me try this again. We made an amended item on the agenda at the start, at our 5 o'clock session, and items 13A through 13D will be right after items 7A and B. So that was something we did at the start of the meeting. So with that, we're going to jump right into our student presentation. So Sunny, please take it from here. Oh, oh yeah. Okay, I really need to focus here. Hold that thought one moment, please. I do need to ask for public comment for items that are not on the agenda this evening. Is there anyone present who would like to make a public comment on any items not on the agenda? Ms. Madrigal, anything online? Okay, thank you very much for that. And now, item 7A, Sunny, please. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is my board report for the month of November. Beginning with St. Helena High School, I just want to do a little homecoming wrap-up. We had about 187 students at the dance, and so it was overall success. And just to give you a little percent there, that is 45% of our student population. From feedback from the students on homecoming week as a whole, I heard a lot of good things, and I think there was a lot of good kind of tangible energy. Homecoming is a really fun week, and it usually brings the class together, so I really appreciate that. Also, there's a little bit of feedback that it was quite late in the school year, which I definitely felt it was kind of verging on that college application season as well. But overall, it was definitely a successful time. With Powder Puff, we had about 50 participants, give or take, and it was definitely a solid event. There was a lot of people in the stands, and as a player myself, I definitely had a lot of fun. And we had a few new rules this year, just making sure that everyone got a chance to participate, which I think was definitely very helpful and will continue to help it in the future. We have Student Congress scheduled for next week. I met with Mr. Cinto today along with my ASB Vice President to kind of draft the agenda and go over our areas of focus, which are meaningful participation and I forget the other one, but academic motivation, to focus on those. And we're essentially just going to be trying to figure out ways to improve those with student representatives from each advisory class, and those are voluntary representatives. We're also going to be going over the California Healthy Kids Survey, and that is next week on Tuesday. We also had a student council meeting today where we just did a bit of a homecoming wrap-up as well, and it was quite a short meeting and just discuss general things that are going on. More about the high school. It is college application season in full swing. Our seniors are working really hard, and to support that, counselors and leadership have been kind of posting a lot of posters and reminders to keep people on track, whether that's the UC, the CSU, or the Common App deadlines. In advisory, we're going over the local scholarship essay as well as in English 12. They're working on it as an assignment that's due on the 20th of November. So that is a pretty hefty scholarship. I believe there was about $400,000 that was given out last year. Yeah, so that's a really big deal. And then also Santa Rosa JC field trip that was taken a few weeks ago as well. Oh, also additionally, there's an out-of-state college fair. I don't have all the colleges at the top of my head, but there's quite a few, and it'll be next week, I believe. And then for Red Ribbon Week, I believe the high school definitely placed a lot of focus on it, and I felt it as a student as well. We had a lot of anti-fentanyl, anti-drug kind of lessons in advisory, as well as our Song for Charlie assembly, where we had a guest speaker in the PAC, as well as an anti-drug convention in the quad during access. For the RLS, focusing more on activities, we had the Halloween costume competition at the RLS track. I stopped by to see that. It was definitely a fun event, and I got some feedback from students, and they definitely enjoyed it, so good job over there. And then intramural sports at lunch. Generally, just a lot of kids kind of physically engaged, enjoying school, stuff like that. For leadership in ASB, they are running this student spirit competition, and apparently it's going very well. And I think that competition is definitely something good to engage in and kind of keep that on going when they go into high school as well. And as well as successful rallies. Just an update on the school-wide art project. It is going very well, I hear, and it's going to be coming together towards the end of the year. And for Red Ribbon Week, it was very similar with kind of Song for Charlie assemblies and rallies and kind of daily activities and lessons as well. And full rosters for sports, so everything's good. For the elementary school, something I wanted to focus on for the elementary and the primary is the new after-school programs as a result of the Prop 28 funds. So this was kind of given in a specific area, and we chose to do it as drama, art, and I believe another kind of artistic expression lessons, music, taught by teachers who teach at the school and the middle school, Miss Coyle and Miss Calparis. We'll be teaching after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the elementary school kids, and the first section will be 5.5 weeks before the next semester. Something going on in 5th grade that I wanted to mention, it might seem small, but I do think this is important, and kind of talking about that transition between elementary school and then into middle school, is that they're shifting between math and language arts, and kind of that physical get up, get your books and stuff like that, I think is really important to mention. More on the artistic focus, there is a boy meets girl concert and Q&A. I believe they're a modern take on classical music band, and it's very cool for the kids to get to see that and get to ask questions. There was parent-teacher conferences, and then just some fun stuff. Halloween and Hoko Parade, they got to see it, trick-or-treat, stuff like that. And then for the Red Ribbon Week at the elementary school, although it's a bit heavy for the elementary school, they did do a Spirit Week, which is kind of drafted by their student council itself. They come up with these days. As you can see, if you can't read, read a book, get educated, stay drug-free, wear red in support of Red Ribbon Week, stuff like that, super fun. And then they also had a joint ELAC meeting with parents and the principals, so parents could get educated on protecting their kids from drugs. And that is it for elementary school. And then for the primary school, I have a photo here from the Halloween parade where they come to the high school. It's super cute, and I mean, my friends were talking about they remembered when they did this, so it's super cool to see that tradition still going. And then also at the primary school is new after-school art and music programs taught by Mrs. K, Mrs. Calparis, and Mr. Binder. That's also from Prop 28. And something kind of cool is that the second graders will also have the opportunity to take art with St. Helena Elementary School. and that's kind of a cool thing. Another thing, they'll be moving up. They might feel a little more comfortable going to the school and meet those kids and stuff like that. They also had parent-teacher conferences and just kind of a overview on the lessons that they're learning in the TK in kindergarten, first and second grade. It's kind of like going over sentences, punctuation, and then progressing into storytelling into the first and second grade, as well as kind of word problems and decoding and stuff like that. And then they also had a second grade field trip to the Academy of Sciences, and for Red Ribbon Week, 2 parent presentations in Spanish and English, just because it's a little heavy for the younger kids like that. And then finally, I have, this is kind of part of that school-wide goal. I set a focus on student engagement, and I really was trying to brainstorm ways that I could measure this, and this seemed like a really good way, and I'm beginning to think about doing a survey. This is not set in stone, but I do want to kind of get some feedback from students on what makes them feel engaged in class, what is it that makes them feel like, look forward to school, feel motivated, and just hear it from that kind of perspective in kind of an open-ended, voluntary way. And I was hoping to begin with the middle school, but hopefully I will have more information on this next board meeting. But that is all I have.
Thank you very much. That's quite a bit. But thank you for sharing all those wonderful things that have been happening. Trustees, any follow-up questions for Sunny? No, I think that the survey is exciting as well, Sunny. So thank you for tackling that. I know it's probably a lot of work, but I really appreciate you thinking about that and moving forward with it. So thank you.
I just want to say she didn't mention the drama presentation last month, which was an excellent show. And I know someone that was in the cast.
Thank you. Up next, I believe we also have a video of
Yes.
our ASB officers.
Yeah. Yes, please. So go right ahead and we'll lead into that.
Oh, hey, I'm Gan Dunnington and I'm your ASB president. My duties are to oversee the Student Life Committee and make our school more connected. I also oversee all of ASB and I run the student council meetings. And I'm currently waiting for the California Healthy Kids Survey to come back to start my project to better our school. Hello, my name is Gemma Hanna. I am the ASB secretary and a senior at the San Leon High School. I'm responsible for recording and filing the minutes for the student council meetings while also overseeing the athletics committee. I also keep the Constitution up to date.
Hi, my name is Karina Garcia. I'm currently a senior, and I am your ASB treasurer. As ASB treasurer, with the assistance of the president and our activities director, Ms. Brazil, I help make and maintain a budget for our school's fiscal year. I'm also in charge of creating financial reports that I report at student council meetings. With the training of FICMAT, and those meetings I attend every school year. And I also help assist and oversee the academics and culture group. Hello, my name is Letty Calder, and many of you may know me, but I am the school board rep for this year. I'm a senior, and alongside organizing student congress with our vice president, I also visit schools, including the primary, elementary, high school, and the middle school, monthly to present at board meetings. This year, I have a goal of student engagement, making sure students are having fun and also enjoying school, both academically and in extracurriculars. Hello, my name is Lucy Hoffmeister. I'm a junior, and I'm the ASB vice president. My duties include helping the student board rep organize and run the student congress, overseeing the spirit committee, helping run all of our student council elections, and helping Ms. Brazil run the ASB Instagram account.
Great. Thank you for putting that together. It's nice to know who's who. Dr. Vang, did you get a little excited when the ASB treasurer used the word FICMAT in there? I was like, she's got a protege on campus right over here. I was. Thank you so much, Sunny. That's
Of
great.
course,
Appreciate
yeah,
that.
no problem.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, oh, I forgot. I know what you're talking about. Yep. Okay. Whew. Maybe I needed that coffee after all. because I had mentioned at the beginning that we made it an agenda amendment, we are now going to jump to 13A instead, which is under facilities, and we're going to start with 13A, which is the solar project update. And this is a written report, correct? Yes, Dr. Vang, it is. That's what is that correct, or you want to speak to that?
It is just an update, and I wanted to publicly announce that we will be holding a community event on Tuesday, December 17th at 5 p.m. to share some project information with the community in regards to our solar project. We've spent a lot of time meeting with the Business Ops Committee. We've shared this with the board, and I wanted to make sure that this was also shared with the public.
Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Nothing online, Ms. Madrigal? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
Just, I didn't see it on there. Where did you decide the meeting would be held on that date?
We are going to meet here either in the boardroom or in the PAC. I will be sending out a flyer when the time gets closer to announce the location.
Dr. Vang, I appreciate the drawings for the placement of the solars. My only concern is the elementary school one and the softball and baseball games hitting the far corner of it. So will that be addressed in the meeting?
My mic needs to be on. We actually met with our fire chief to look over that with Principal Emery when we were over at the elementary school. And it is a 13 feet panel. That's how high it will be. So we are confident based on the feedback that we've gotten with our fire chief and looking at it with our engineers that we should not have any issues with Carpy Field and the sports activities that may be occurring out there.
Okay, thank you.
And that includes the adult softball? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Trustees, any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you. Item 13B is review and consider approval of change order number 4 to the Bauman Landscape and Construction contract for the RLS tract and field. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. I actually have Steve and John from Gradestone, so they'll give a quick update on this project, and then we'll take questions that any of the trustees may have.
See, I guess this is on. Yes. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So we have finished up finally the RLS track and field, and it's a beautiful facility. I've noticed in driving by there's a lot of students and a lot of other community members using the track and field and really enjoying that space. And as you know, as a construction project gets to the end, you have to clean up all of the costs and miscellaneous items that either you ran into during construction or unsettled business from earlier in the project. So we put together, after multiple weeks of back and forth with the contractor, a summary of all the costs that were outstanding as well as credits to their contract. And that's what you're seeing in front of you is change order number 4, which summarizes all of those various costs and credits. With this, we actually ended up with a surplus in the contingency allowance. So we were still under budget from what was originally budgeted for the project. So that was a good thing to have at the end.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who would wish to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, questions about this agenda item?
I have kind of a process question, not having experienced facilities projects at a school before. The project is done. So these were being asked to approve a change order even though the work is done, right? And is someone such as yourself approving all these changes along the way?
That's correct.
Okay, so someone has approved that they should happen and that they were needed before. Like, I just want to make sure I understand how this works.
Yes.
So basically what we're doing is we are recommending approval along the way. We're having discussions with Dr. Vang and the superintendent at the time. They were at the weekly OAC meetings to keep the project moving.
Okay.
So in a perfect world, we would love to be able to stop, take it to the board and get approval. We had all of the rain and we were behind schedule and we were trying to get moving or keep moving while we had the time to meet the deadlines.
Okay. And then as an example, thank you, that helps me understand it. I just wanted to make sure. Item number 6 was talking about having to redo work because of an elevation issue. So in items where either design is wrong or the concrete or the sloping was wrong and you have to redo it, you still pay even though it was done wrong the first time? I'm just,
Well, that's
again,
my
I'm just
question.
trying to understand how this works. And I think you just have to pay, but
So I'll take this.
it's an awkward question. I'm just trying to make sure I understand.
Yeah, essentially when you get a survey done, they're not surveying every individual point, right? So they're taking it on a 10 or 20-foot grid or whatever that is. So it's inevitable that there is going to be some sort of sloping or grade issues. In this case, the curb was originally built per the plan. And when we were going through reviewing it after it was poured, we determined that, hey, there could be a trip hazard here where somebody could be running and step off of the track. So it was all approved by DSA. It was all within code. But in this instance, it was, hey, we need to make the situation better because we do see the potential issue here. So we determined at that point that we should remove the curb and build a higher curb. And there was a couple different ways we could go about it, but we thought this was the best long-term answer.
Okay. Trustees? I think as you know, the mindset of the board, so you know what happens when change orders show up on our agenda. So, and I think to Trustee Mora's point, understanding process is because we are going to be about facilities for the next decade. So it's a matter of educating ourselves and understanding the process and knowing when how to expect change orders. So your explanation was helpful in that respect, and I would think that helps us understand. We know that things come up in the midst of a project. So,
I have a quick question
yeah.
about that example. Was staff informed of that decision?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was a decision that was discussed with staff at the time that it happened.
Okay.
And when a change order comes up, or when extra work or a change in work comes up, we go through the drawings, we go through the specifications, we make sure that there's merit there. Once we've identified that, then we get into the cost and making sure that cost makes sense, and work with the design team to make sure, at least to try and come to that best decision of how to proceed, so that the end result is both lasts long and that it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
And we're under budget on this project as a whole. So I think we had $5.7 million that was allocated to this project, and we're going to come in several $100,000 under that.
Okay.
And I think with the winter that we had, and with some of the construction issues that we had, I think it was a success, honestly.
Okay. And I think for staff, for informing the staff, it's, if we know significant change orders are coming up as we start to work in facilities, and trustees, you can shake your heads and say, I'm not speaking correctly, but just that we have, whether it's in a Friday memo update, that we know change orders are coming. Is that kind of where your thought process was going? I want to make sure that I'm speaking correctly for us.
Yeah, I was shocked to see another one, not shocked, that's dramatic, but I guess if I had known that there was a list of things accumulating and it will be coming on a board agenda, it wouldn't have been, what?
Right.
We finished it.
Yeah. So that would just be a request of staff, please. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. I think trustees, any other questions? Trustee Kerr, do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, I think then that answers our questions for now, and we'll move forward. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve change order number 4 to the Bauman Landscape and Construction Contract for the RLS Track and Field Project as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Sunny, would you like to cast a vote? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Calder? Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kurt?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. 13C is review and consider approval of a conceptual scope, budget, and use of a lease-back contract for the St. Helena Primary School re-roof and dry rot project. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. I had shared at the Wednesday, October 30th facility studies that we had just received our assessment report back regarding the primary school buildings. And so again, I'm going to turn this over to both Steve and John to provide you with an update.
So just to introduce the project and what the issues are, we've spent several days out there at the site, and we've developed a scope of work and identified all the areas, whether they were in the roof area or if they were in a wall. We have some areas where dry rot and what they call T111 siding with the battens that come down vertically. And when you go to the base where the concrete foundation wall is, there is soft wood that you can just literally push right through it. So in some areas. So those areas will need to be identified. And we went ahead and we looked at and categorized those either in a high priority, that it's very soft and very needs attention right away, or other areas where and the materials in 4-foot sections. So you can take a 4-foot area, replace the bottom area, and then move on to the next. So mostly it's roof areas that we were concerned about. We had a structural engineer out on the site. They looked at it and he said, there's no danger here of anybody, getting something to fall on their head. So we opened up 2 areas, explored them, put new plywood back down again, and re-roofed those areas temporarily so that they're watertight for the winter. So we've had a report done, and then we've also had some costs that have come in for architectural investigations. So that's where we're at right now.
Thank you. Pardon me 1 second here. Is there any public comment or anyone participating via Zoom who would like to comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
If I could add something.
Oh, yes.
Real quick.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're asking to do is to get approval to use a lease-back contract. And we haven't done that at this district, to my knowledge, before. And I think we talked about it a little bit with the track and field project, but we decided that wasn't the best option at the time. We feel that it's a good option at this point because of the considerable design and the DSA approval that needs to take place and the timing where we are now. We think that if we go with the lease-back, we can get a contractor on early, and we can get some of the materials ordered early so that we're not, by the time we get DSA approval in May, we're kind of ahead of the game, and then we're not ordering materials and going through submittals at that point.
Okay.
And this is a process that has been approved by your legal counsel.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have questions?
I actually don't understand
A lease-back.
what a lease-back is, sorry.
So a lease-back is an alternative delivery method in which a contractor is selected based off of best value instead of lowest price. So they're still bidding the project out, but they have to turn in a qualifications packet. So we'll advertise as we would a normal project. We would have a deadline for qualifications. We would go through and evaluate them based on a rubric as identified by the legal counsel. We would have an interview and determine who that contractor should be for this project. They would go through, they would have some pre-construction services in which they would do some investigations and whatever it takes to sort of help identify what's necessary for that project while the project is being completed in design. And so they would work as a partner at the time. Once they've done that, they would bid the project out to subcontractors, just like in a design bid build. and they would turn that into us. They would also provide us with all of the results from all of the bids that they've got so that we can evaluate that. So we could go with the lowest contractors that they have, but we're reviewing those to determine the capability of those contractors as well. And that's a decision that's made with district staff.
It's a multi-layer process, as you can gather. It takes, takes some time. But go ahead, Laura, you have a question?
Yeah, okay, I do. So, do we know how old the dry rot is? Or how long it's been there?
Yeah, we actually have determined that that roof that's on the building right now is the original roof from everything that we've seen. As far as the dry rot goes, it's hard to say. In some areas that are exposed to western or south exposure, less likely to have it. But we also noticed there was a lot of vegetation that was growing next to the bottom of the walls. So when the landscaper was out there last week, we asked them to trim a lot of that away. So it's hard to say how old that really is, and it varies throughout the whole, all the buildings.
So I guess my question for staff is, does the district staff monitor dry rot annually? Do we have some sort of calendar program where we're monitoring that?
Mike, our facilities director, is here. We do our maintenance team and our grounds team as we are at the sites. If they notice anything, they do bring it to our attention. So that is part of our walkthroughs when we're at the sites is you see something, say something, right? Bring it to our attention so that we can address it. And this is actually how we discover the dry rot over at the primary school.
Okay. So then I'm confused as to why this dry rot wasn't found earlier. How it got to this amount. Yeah.
Well, I think at the roof, I can only speak for the roof, but some destructive testing was done where we peeled back, where we noticed some members that were dry rotted were able to go up above the roof, peel back that roofing, and identify some additional dry rot that was on the sheeting. Kept peeling back, and then we noticed the issues with the flashing that we had indicated in the previous meeting.
So you could indicate that you noticed there was dry rot just from what was visible, and then when you did some more digging, that's where you found.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Another question that I have relates to number 1, anticipated roof bid amount. So what does that entail? I feel like there's a lot there that's not, I still would love to know what is under that. Is that roofing materials? Is that fixing dry rot? What is that?
Yes, most of the dry rot in the roof areas is over covered walkways, and it's pretty much isolated to where the main roof comes down to the second roof, which is below it, and the way that was flashed so that that water does not get backwards into and underneath the building paper.
Okay.
So that's the main reason why we have that area.
I mean, I guess
As
I
far
would
as
feel
that-
better about that big price tag if I knew what all of what was in that.
As far as that number goes, so that would be the new roofing material. It would be replacing the dry rot that is under the roofing. Would be all of the new flashing.
Okay.
And it would be painting of all of the buildings, and then replacement of the dry rot of the siding that we've identified. Right. We could pull off some, and there could be some structural members underneath that we don't know.
Okay.
But we also have a contingency in there for what we hope,
Right.
for what we can anticipate.
But also labor.
Yeah, it's
all
materials
all
and
the labor. So if you were to bid that project out with the information we have, we're saying that's the number that we think that it would come in at.
Okay. Is there a way for future projects for you to be able to bullet what those things are, just for our knowledge, so we really have an understanding? of
Absolutely.
what we're paying
Yeah, no,
for?
absolutely. I think in the
Okay.
past, we've kind of delivered it in this
Right.
format, but that's something that we actually have an estimate that gets us to that number that
Right. Okay.
sometimes it becomes too much for you guys, but if that's something you want, absolutely.
It just would be a good education for me moving forward, because I know we have a lot of projects.
Right.
I have one more question.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if we can go to the next document and the same agenda item. Where did I put it? It's the one in the pink borders. So I see we have, and I asked this earlier.
Are you on a different agenda item? Sorry,
This is the second document for this, for.
Oh.
You know what? It's the same one, but it's down a ways when we discuss.
Yeah, so I'm going to
proposition.
ask you to just hold your
Yeah.
question for that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, the two attachments with this agenda
Yeah,
item
that's
doesn't have
contracts
the-
over 2,500.
Yeah, so
So
could-
25,000. So will you guys still be here for that item? That's 14A.
Okay, unless,
The same project, but that's,
yeah, I think, but we can't jump because we haven't.
no, I
made that-
understand.
Yeah.
I understand. So I'm just
So-
asking if you could.
Okay, and if for some reason Dr. Vang maybe isn't, if the gentlemen are not here and Dr. Vang can't answer it, the staff can get the answer for you.
Perfect.
So we'll.
Thank you.
We'll make that happen one way or another, I would think. Wanted to say again, I know you're understanding the theme that's going to come through here on facilities, but to their point, I think what normally happens as we start to get into these projects, you get the bids. That big number item, the 3 million that you're seeing, does get broken out. It gets broken out into what's materials, what's labor. We usually see that as the process comes a little bit closer to picking a vendor. Am I correct on that? We usually see a better breakdown.
So normally what you'll see is you'll see the actual bid form that came in
Okay.
and the bid results.
Okay.
And that'll have their numbers on it.
Okay.
Right. So Dr. Vang would get the all of the breakdowns and all of that. So we could absolutely.
Yeah,
If
I
that's
just
what you
think
want,
as
we
long
can
as
do
it's
that, for sure.
available for the trustees to read and learn and continue with understanding facilities projects is going to be beneficial for us.
And what I will do is, as we progress through this project, I will work with Dr. McClay to ensure that you get as much information as possible on our Friday memos. And when we have our weekly meetings with Gradestone, Steve is usually pretty good about providing me written summary of what we've discussed. And so what I'll add to that is, for example, if there are any change orders, giving you a heads up, but just being more proactive about providing you with information as we have our meetings, so that way Dr. McClay can include in her Friday memos to you guys. And also I wanted to share that Trent Summers, who's our architect, is actually online if there are any questions for Trent as well. He's here online with us.
Thank you. Anything further, trustees?
I have it just in being with the board, and I know Dr. Vang, you're doing an amazing job kind of kind of taking over a lot of things you inherited. And there's been so many projects. I'm kind of assuming that going forward, we are going to have like a checklist that every October we check the roofs so we don't get to this point again of having $84 million of things. And, obviously we've been very reactionary, but I feel like we are not what am I trying? Reactionary versus proactive in finding things. So I'm just kind of hoping this is a huge lesson that we're learning in just having a checklist of all the things that can go wrong and that we're ready to, to take care of them.
So my question is, so I'm going to go back to that $3,082,000 again, the anticipated roof bid. So when you mentioned using lease back, it was not necessarily, if I understood this right, it's not necessarily with the contractors with the lowest bidder, but the one with the most value, or something to that. Is that correct?
The general contractor that would be selected would be the best value.
Okay,
Correct.
so the general.
So when they turn in their qualifications to us, they're also including what they anticipate their pre-construction fees to be, their markup in terms of percentage based off of what we anticipate the project to come in at, and then also their general conditions. So we get those numbers right off the bat based off of our estimate. It's the actual tasks, the activities of roofing and demo and carpentry, et cetera, that they're bidding out.
Okay. So then so thank you for that. And so my question would be, so the anticipated amount for the roof bid actually may go up. Because
may-
it hasn't been bid out, is that correct?
That's correct. This is our best guess of where we anticipate it to be without having any drawings, just with the information we know. We've got some contingencies in there. I feel, I'm not going to say that's not going to come over, but I feel pretty confident that that number, that I'm not going to be coming back to you and saying, you know, you're going to need more money, but it could happen, right? When we don't know. I mean, we're at 9% escalation a year, and I don't know kind of where we're headed between now and June.
Well, and that was my next comment question was with at the facilities meeting. Then you mentioned that with the passing of Proposition 2, inflation sets in and 10 to 15% increase, like right off the gate, right away. Are we going to see that here then, or are these numbers kind of set for us and not going to be inflated?
We've anticipated these numbers based off the information we have. So we've tried to include as much as that escalation as possible.
Okay, so it does include some of the escalation then from there?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question for Trent, and I think I can ask the architecture fee question because I do see it on here. Okay. So Trent, I'm looking at number 3, architect fees, over 364,000. And can you explain to me why we have this price for architect fees for putting a new roof on of an existing structure instead of creating an entirely new structure?
So the fee includes the architectural services, the structural engineering services, and the roofing consultant that we'll bring in to help us develop the plan. So that fee is inclusive of all of that. And in a way, the structural engineering is a bit tricky because if a structural engineer sits down and designs from scratch a structural system, they know, they can design it with all of the information in mind. A lot of this structural work that will be done is going to be significantly reactionary as we unpack the damage, right? So that fee, in a way, it's a bit more difficult for them because we will go into it with as clear of eyes as we can. But there will be a portion of us in the summer saying, well, once we finish this destructive demolition, there will be a portion of that work that needs to be done, sort of on the fly, adapting to old structures, modifying them, bringing them up to code. So it's not as clean structurally as simply sitting down and saying, this is the roof that I'd like to design from scratch and field build. There's the integration of all of that with the existing systems, as well as making sure that our new structural interventions are approved by DSA and all of the administrative work that comes along with a project of this nature. I can provide you, if you'd like, again, similar to John, a sort of an hour by hour breakdown of how we see those hours working out and where those dollars are spent, if you'd like a little bit more backup. Again, typically we present these numbers sort of as sort of a whole number roll up, but we do have the backup to that we can get to Dr. Vang if you'd like to see kind of how all those hours break out.
Yeah, for this project, I would appreciate a breakdown of the architect fees so I understand moving forward.
Sure.
Understand that fee better with future projects. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I just have a comment. And I think we have done a lease back, and I think it might have been either the auditorium or the pool, one of the two. Because I think I remember it was with Mr. McGuire when he was the superintendent here.
That's possible. I came in right around the time we were doing the pool, and I know that was a multi-prime project. So it's possible that it was the auditorium. Mm-hmm. I'd have to go back and look at that.
I think it was the auditorium.
Yeah. But it's been a while, so.
It has been a while, yeah.
Okay.
And is the benefit of lease back is being able to get everything together while DSA is going through what they need to. So when DSA says you're ready, it's good, then we're just ready to start building. Is that what lease back?
So we wouldn't be able to enter into a final guaranteed max price or total base rents, the same thing, contract with the general contractor until we have DSA approval. Okay.
Okay.
But there are certain materials that we could do as part of pre-construction where we could release the materials early.
And John, there's also a value to bringing in a contractor partner earlier in the process because they can provide pre-construction services where we work collaboratively with them to make sure that that number we bring you is inclusive of all of the work, right? So they will be a partner with us in designing that and working towards that guaranteed maximum price so that we'll have a contracting partner speaking into that as we develop that with you or for you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then for the benefit of our, staff and other community stakeholders and families of the primary school, the roof is not in any kind of hazardous condition that is of a safety concern to the people who occupy it, correct? At the way that it is now.
That's my understanding,
Okay,
correct?
great.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
That's from the report
Right.
as well. I just want to, in case anybody had concerns, that if there was something that was with the dry rot as well, because dry rot can be very problematic. I just wanted to assure our stakeholders that the bill, it's not unsafe. So, great. Thank you. Trustees, anything else? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the conceptual scope, budget, and use of the lease-leaseback contract for the St. Helena Primary School re-roof and dry rot project as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Sunny, would you like to cast a vote? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Calder? Aye. Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you for being here, and Trent, thank you as well for being available.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so now 13D. Well, we have one more. You guys aren't done yet, actually. So, approval. So I take that back. I'll thank you after the next one. No, approval of the schematic design and associated budget for the RLS. Oh my God, middle school main water line replacement. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn this over to Steve. Back in May, we had a water leak over at the middle school. And when we dug a little deeper, we had other issues that we needed to address, specifically the domestic water line in front of the school. And so Steve has been working on getting us quotes. So I'll turn over to Steve.
So on this project, what we have is they determined that a couple of problems. One, there are no isolation valves that were available to turn the water off, except to go to the water meter and turn the entire campus off. So that was one problem. Second problem was that's a very old water line. That's the main water line coming up to the front of the school. And with that, you have issues where you don't know when that line is going to have a break in it. And that can happen from tree roots. It can happen from vehicles running over and if it's too shallow, it can damage it. So a lot of different things going on. In this case, where we had the leak in front of the school, there was an old, a large tree there that they had taken out. And we think that the roots finally got down underneath and pinch the pipe between the bottom of the foundation of the wall and the root system of the tree. So the plumber said, you really ought to taking a look at replacing this line because down the road you are going to have a problem with it again. So at that point, we decided we better get a civil engineer on board so they can do a topo map of what's out there, and then also put together some specifications, some details, and to replace that line. So we're in the mode right now of getting ready to want to bid this so that we can get pricing in and look at it at a more detailed level.
Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who would like to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions on this agenda item?
Yeah, I noticed that it said that school would not be able to be in session during this project. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. What we
Okay.
do is the critical parts are getting across the paved area or the roundabout at the top where kids are picked up or dropped off. So what we'd have to do is select a day or two when school is not in session, and even if we ran into a problem, we could trench plate across there, a heavy steel plate, so people could still drive back and forth over it while the work is being done. So we don't see it as being a major issue.
How long do you anticipate this project will take?
Well, I think first few days would be just exploratory. We'd have to pothole to find out where pipes are and to verify what's on the drawings. And then second, there'd be a couple of days to 3 days to get across the paved areas in the driveway and roundabout. And then there'll be a few more days after that in digging the trench and laying new pipe and connecting everything up and putting the new valves in.
Okay, thanks.
So the current line has not been scoped with the camera at this point, correct? That will be done when it's exposed? Have they gone through that main water line down to where it goes out to Hillview?
Well, they went out and they surveyed the area, and they were
okay.
able to pick up where the line is.
Okay,
But it's not always necessarily 100% accurate.
Okay,
So they
right.
really need to go out there and physically pothole it and find those
Okay.
lines.
and do we know at this point how many isolation valves would be ideal to put on that line, additional ones?
Currently, we have one for the gym, and we'd have one for the front of the school, and there are some branch lines that go
Okay.
off the main line that go over to the side. Then it would have to have valves for those lines.
Okay, great.
too.
Okay.
So at least 3 to 4 valves.
Right. And when you were talking about the tree roots, we're talking about the incident where, right at the entry to the office there, where we had the former leak. Okay. All right. That's what, I want to make sure I was on the same page with that. Trustees? Any other questions?
I have a question for Dr. Vang, and if you can't answer this, I apologize for asking this kind of on the fly here. So you say that during the January 19th, 2023 regular board meeting, the board approved an interfund transfer from Fund 01 to 40 to address facilities. So my question is this: so will this amount here be taken from that transfer? Okay.
Correct. There's already funds sitting in Fund 40. The board had approved this, as you stated, back in January 19th of 2023. So the funds are sitting there. So we're asking the board to approve this project, and we'll use the existing funds that are already in Fund 40
That are there.
to cover the costs.
Which have been remaining funds from other
Yes,
facility projects
yes.
that we've had. Okay, great.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That was a good question for clarification. Anything else, trustees?
No.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the schematic design and associated budget for the RLS Middle School main water line replacement as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Sunny, would you like to cast a vote? Sure. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Calder?
Aye.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Moore?
Aye.
Trustee Simon? Aye. President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you again for being here and answering our questions and helping us with our continued education on facilities, because we're very grateful for that. Thank you, Dr. Vang, as
you.
well, for your work on that. Okay, now we're going to go back up to 8, the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, the item will be considered under discussion and action items. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item or participating via Zoom? No? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item or request to pull an item?
You know, I would like to pull the 8E. It's the under $25,000.
Okay.
And it's specifically the ones for Pacific Tree.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda item with the taking out the Pacific Tree Care contracts under item 8E as presented?
One moment. I thought you were going to remove all of E, so do we have to specify if I have a question of other ones in there?
Would you like to pull another? Yeah, so,
I'm
okay.
sorry, I was thinking the whole thing.
No, well, because
Sorry.
E has all, there's multiple
Yeah.
contracts there. So what items under 8E would you like?
I had questions for the Up Valley Family Center and then the Calistoga Unified St. Helena High School track usage.
Okay. Any trustees, anything else?
No.
So let me get my my motion correct here. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with with pulling items? Let's see here. Hold on. Let me see. Just pull the whole thing. Okay. I'm just gonna. I was like, that's gonna get. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with pulling item 8E out of it as presented?
I'll make that motion.
That was still.
I'll second.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
Trustee Mora.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye, motion carries. You would think I hadn't been doing this for 3 years, but okay. Okay, let's talk about item 8E. Let's, Trustee Kerr, you want to talk about the Pacific Tree Care ones first?
Thank you. I do see that there's going to be several trees removed on all sites, and it's for the solar panels, which I understand the need for doing that. I'm not happy about that, but I see the need of it. I guess my request would be, it just doesn't feel good to be chopping down trees. I just want to tell you that. I've been very consistent in that. And it seems like we're doing quite a bit of trimming and cutting right now for safety issues and different reasons. So I get that. And I guess my things maybe to make me feel, and maybe our community too, feel a little better, would we be able to schedule how many the rest of the year as like what our plan is with trees so that we all kind of know what's coming down? I mean, what's your thought about that? I'm asking.
Yes, actually, if you recall, when our arborist was here and he had shared the app that we have now inventory all of our trees, one of the things that he and I will do annually is we will meet and we will go over, like every year we're going to start tackling, like we're going to start addressing our tree maintenance. This year, if you recall, we started with our highest priorities, right? Trees that we really needed to address, that to prevent, to be proactive and to ensure that we were doing our part in ensuring safety and ensuring that, we don't have, accidents or things that we should be proactive about. So that happened last year coming into this year. So we've addressed some of those, but every year, Jake and I will meet with Mike and we will continue to, because we had prioritized what's high priority and then going down the list. So we'll continue to come back to the board. But I hear what you're saying is you like a list of those trees that we need to address so that you have an idea up front. Okay. So I will make sure that when we meet with Jake, that we prioritize next year's round of trees, if there are any that we need to address, and then we'll bring it back to the board. Does that sound fair? Okay.
It does, thank you. And do we have anything, and I don't know if it would be a policy or what it would be of planting trees? Plant a tree to one that takes down?
We do. So we work closely with Jake, who also works closely with the city. So for trees that are in the right of way or that are and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there are trees that are in the right of way that we need to replant, we will need to replant trees. So we've actually replanted trees. For example, there are some new trees that we actually replanted outside of on Spring Mountain over at the middle school, Mike?
Spring Mountain Road and also on the front of the elementary on Oak Street.
So for trees that we do take down, we do our best to replant new ones, especially if they're in the city's right of way. Yes.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to also say thank you for the photos, because that really helps us understand the placement and perhaps the reasoning behind why those trees have to go. So if that could always, whatever is slated to come down on a tree removal schedule, if photos could be accompanying that would be great. Thank you. And thank you for including those for tonight. That was great. Trustees, any other questions about that? No? Okay. Well, then we're going to move on to the next item, which Trustee Morey, if you would like to just start with your questions about the Up Valley and Calistoga.
Sorry, I just accidentally closed out of board docs, so let me pull them up.
Okay.
My question for Calistoga was, to my knowledge, we've never offered shared space at the high school track before, so I guess I'm curious what initiated. I know they have construction, and then also just making sure, I've always been told that our track is completely utilized, so what hours would they be using it?
So this was actually vetted through our high school athletic coach, Brendan Farrell. So Brendan had initially reached out to me after the athletic coaches at Calistoga reached out to him. As you just mentioned, the facilities over at Calistoga Joint Unified School District are under construction, and therefore they're in need of facilities to practice. And so they had reached out to Brendan Farrell and worked out some dates, some times, not to interfere with our events, because our students and staff will always get priority over our facilities. And then after that, we will then, work with outside groups, especially our partners such as Calistoga, other community members. So this was actually vetted through that process. It went through the high school athletic director who worked with Mike, and then it came to me. So what you're seeing here is the formal documentation, so that way if anything happens liability-wise, we're covered. So what you're seeing is the liability piece, that MOU in place, and because Calistoga and we are both part of the same JPA NBSIA, this will cover us should anything happen. So this is the legal piece of it, I can say.
Okay.
So does that include damage to the facilities?
Brandon will work closely with the athletic directors. If issues come up, we'll work together with their CBO. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Questions on that one? No? Okay. And then the next one on the Up Valley Family Centers?
Oh, yes. So one of my questions, just to clarify, that you already answered, but it's basically reading it as a pass-through. The county is paying us, and then we are paying Up Valley Family Centers directly. It's money coming from the state to fund 3 positions. I guess I'm curious, did we decide what these 3 positions are? And I just would want confirmation that we have the need, like these roles are filling a gap that we had, because I was unaware we had 3 full-time positions worth of a gap. So it kind of surprised me. And then my initial question was, maybe we're reducing our other contract, and this is a new funding source. So we have a need for 3 other full-time.
This is actually a new grant that the county office has received, and we are part of a consortium that the Napa County Office of Ed is leading. And the 3 positions you see are Wellness Coach 1, Wellness Coach 2. So those positions we didn't get to select. It's part of the grant that we are now a part of. And so there are this grant includes very specific wellness coaches, as you can see from the MOU. So what we did was, because we already had a partnership with Up Valley Family Centers, instead of going out and trying to hire on our own or partner up with a different partner, we went ahead and worked closely with Jenny and with Up Valley and NCOE, Napa County Office of Ed, to ensure that we were meeting the grant guidelines requirements in terms of what positions we can actually fund. And there are specific dollars that are part of this grant, so we don't get to select the positions or the funding. It's all within the grant that the county office has received, and so we're just partnering up with Up Valley Family to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of this grant in order for us to stay in the consortium and keep the grant. So it's a benefit, it's an advantage to the district.
And are they 3 full-time positions?
They are, I have my cheat sheet. Can I get back to you on that? I have my
oh, yeah.
cheat sheet, yes.
And I guess I just wanted to make sure I understood what a wellness coach is. So it's not therapy for therapists. They're supporting with mental health literacy, life skills, screenings, and referrals. And so I guess it's a gap with what we have already?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So it's going to supplement our programs that we already have to address wellness and mental health.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vang. Anything else, trustees? Questions on those two? Okay, then we're gonna go back and do is there a motion to approve items 8E on the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carried. Thank you so much. We'll go get through communications and then we're going to take a short recess. Okay. So item 9A is board member reports. Trustee Kerr.
Good evening. And my report isn't short this evening because I knew we were going to have a long meeting. So, but I had absolutely wonderful visits with Mr. Ryan and Dr. McClay last Friday. And I do have like a little bit prepared notes here. It was always a pleasure and opportunity to visit the classrooms with Mr. Ryan and Dr. McClay last Friday afternoon. As always, the minute I walked on campus, I was greeted with a hello and a smile, and the kindness and appreciation of my visit was felt throughout the entire visit. Our site visit began with several stops to classrooms, a visit to the track and field, and then a conversation about the outside patio space with Mrs. Cinto, who's the media specialist there. As she is envisioning envisioning a space outside the media center door that looks out towards the track and field. So it's like a little patio area that she's looking at, like having like a little quiet space or just kind of hangout space and stuff. And it's actually it's a good little place. I mentioned I never have seen it before, but I guess there was a big hedge on it and things too. So if you ever get over there, take a look at it. It's gonna be nice. I really appreciate the entire RLS team for the ways that they try to add more outdoor learning space and comfortable space for the students to study or to just hang out. As we were going through classrooms and things, we had really nice conversations just about RLS in general, the students, how polite they are, the things that the teachers are doing in the classrooms. We spoke about Red Ribbon Week, kind of with the activities there. They had the the Song for Charlie presentation for the students there, and each one of the grades did it individually. So it was it was an easier presentation for each one of the grade levels. We spoke about the Latino literacy classes that are each week, and was very, very pleased. And I felt so lucky to meet the teacher that is teaching that class right now. It's Miss Figueroa Rios. She sounds like she is bringing in a lot of families into that class, and absolutely a rock star with having dinner afterwards, and just really building a community with our families. So that was wonderful to see and to learn about. It just, I have to say, and I say this each time that I visit any of our campuses, and the last couple of years, RLS in general, just because it's my adopted school, it's just so charming to go to into all of our sites. I mean, they're you just always feel very welcome, and the students there, like I said earlier, are just so polite and kind, and they're always willing to open doors and all the things that you don't expect, but then when you see them, it's wonderful. So I just want to say thank you to everyone at RLS, including our students, our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our janitors, everyone. I don't want to leave anyone out, for everything that you do for our students every day. And I also want to applaud our students for all of the really good work that they're doing there as well, because they're very studious, and every time I go into a classroom, they're eager and they're ready to learn. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. And thank you for joining us, too. Thank you. And that's it. You're welcome.
Thank you, Trustee Kerr. Okay, 9B is Board President Report. So let's, since I'm acing public speaking tonight, let's see how I do here. Just a few items to share with the board. We have a holiday winter concert coming up on December 5th at 6 p.m. At the PAC. It's going to have the RLS and the St. Helena High School Band and Orchestra. If you had a chance to see them, I guess it was about a month ago. That orchestra, the new orchestra, was pretty amazing, I will have to say. There was a lot of kids on stage, and what I really appreciated about that last performance was, having the sixth graders, like opening up with the jazz band at the high school, and then having the sixth graders and knowing what that program builds on. And so it's really great stuff. So again, December 5th, 6 p.m. However, we will not be here as board members for that, because also in December is our annual CSBA School Board Conference in Anaheim this year. So the board, along with Dr. McClay, Mr. Heller, and I apologize if anybody else is joining us that I'm leaving out, but I do believe that's the team, will be there December 4th through the 7th to attend that. And then the other thing that will happen in December is our annual organizational meeting here at the dais. So that's when we will, as a board, select a new board president, vice president, and clerk. We will also, at that point, perhaps talk about committee assignments, but we also agree that we might let those ride out the school year, as well as the Adopt a School platform, but more to come on that as we approach that organizational meeting. And those are conversations we can have with Dr. McClay on our weekly meetings, and what if we want to envision any changes to those. But with that's what I'm going to share with you. We have the Thanksgiving break at the end of this month, November 25th through the 29th. There will be no school in session. So happy Thanksgiving break to everybody. And Trustee Kerr, you seem like you want to say something.
I am.
Okay, yeah.
Here, bite the bit here.
Okay.
The most important thing that I forgot to mention was, and I'm sure that maybe you've seen it, is RLS AVID program, A Model for Schools, in the St. Helena Star.
Oh, nicely done.
There we go. Yeah, a very good article. Jesse did a fantastic job, so give it a read.
That's today's paper?
It's today's paper,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
And I want to quickly say that I just remember when, I asked Mr. Cinto this evening when AVID started at the high school. It was 2001, and I do remember that time because there was transitions going along there, and when I became a board member in 2010, AVID was really strong at the high school at that time, and we kept on saying, gosh, it would be great if we were able to kind of push it down into the middle school and possibly even the elementary school. But it sounds like the AVID program is kind of 7th grade on up. But we can celebrate that it's at AVID, and they're going to be a showcase for us for other schools. So congratulations.
Bravo.
Congratulations.
Thank you for sharing that. That's important. Thank you. Okay, item C, Superintendent's Report. Dr. McClay, please.
Okay, well, thank you. I will also be brief tonight. We've got a lengthy agenda with some really awesome things to discuss. It is truly an honor to be here, so thank you. It's day 9 for me in St. Helena, and even though I've only been here 9 days, several things are quite evident that I wanted to just highlight tonight. The first one is how incredibly welcoming everyone has been, from staff and students, parents, trustees, community members, everyone has gone above and beyond to welcome me. Coming in mid-year can be an interesting challenge, as Mr. Heller mentioned earlier, but truly everyone has done so much to help me acclimate and get settled in, so we really can hit the ground running. And so it is an honor to be the newest member of our team. Secondly, I've been fortunate to visit all of our schools already. I've been in many of our classrooms, attended some events and assemblies to meet students, and I've just met a whole wealth of staff members, which has been amazing. But one of the things that has really stood out, and I think Mrs. Kerr alluded to it earlier, is the positive climate and culture on each of our campuses. It truly is palpable. You feel it when you get out of your car or before you even walk in the office, and not every school has that for children. And I think that is such a blessing that we want to recognize. One of my favorite quotes in education is by Dr. Anthony Muhammad, and it's "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And in other words, it doesn't matter how great our strategies are within the classrooms and within the school walls if we don't have a positive culture and climate for our students and our staff every single day. And so that is heartwarming to see. I love that our principals know every child by name. They know their stories. Our staff just absolutely exudes care for every one of them and what they bring to school every day. So that has really stood out. And then the third thing that has really stood out, and this is no slight on the primary or the elementary school, because I haven't gotten to see inside their classrooms yet. I've been on their campuses a couple of times, but I haven't done classroom observations. But the middle school and the high school have been incredibly impressive within the classrooms and what we are seeing strategically on behalf of our teachers. And that really is kudos to the entire district and all of the work that you have done. The rigor within every single classroom, the engagement of our students, the collaboration of our students. And most folks don't realize out there that school doesn't look like it looked when most of us went to school. There's no longer rows of students with the teacher at the front kind of depositing information to students, but it's much more collaborative, it's much more project-based, with a rigorous real-life curriculum, and that's what I'm seeing in our middle school and our high school. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to share how impressed I've been, and I do believe I've seen a lot of really high-quality, high-ranking schools throughout this country, and I would put ours way up here. In fact, the greatest compliment I can ever give a teacher or a principal is that I'd bring my own children or my own grandchildren, put them in your class or in your school. And my poor daughter and son-in-law all week have been hearing, "You've got to move to St. Helena because I want my grandkids here in our schools." So that really is the best compliment I can give. So in closing, I'll just say also the agenda is a lot tonight. But if you really pay attention, it's a lot of good stuff. And when I say good stuff, I mean it's about students, it's about teaching, it's about learning. And that's what a governing board should be talking about, and not all of them do. So it's just so incredibly refreshing to be in a place where you are continuing to focus on what is truly important, and that's our kids, what they're learning, how we're teaching. So you're going to see a lot of evidence of that tonight. We saw it earlier, and I have to give a shout out to the culinary program. It's just one of our many opportunities that we give to kids, and they showed you with heartfelt love and hard work today just how amazing that one particular program is, and it's just one of many. So again, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. McClay. That's true. We were treated to a lovely Thanksgiving meal by the culinary department at the high school tonight, which was great. Which is maybe why I'm not speaking so well, because I enjoyed all the food. But thank you again, and we welcome you, and thank you for being here. Okay, item 9E is the St. Helena Teachers Association report to the board, and I believe that's going to be Angie Bond this evening. Did I miss something already? Oh, boy. Oh, gosh. Okay. Promise we're going to get through this, and then I'm going to take a walk, and we're going to just have the superintendent subcommittee reports, 9D. Okay. And it's probably me, correct? It is. All right. Okay. So
You're
we had
just-
the
you're
board
making me
policy
look good.
committee, but I might tag team this with you, Dr. McClay. Are we going to do this? Trustees, you saw later on in our agenda all the policies and ARs that are coming for review and or approval. We were going to highlight a few of them. Do we have those on a slide or anything, or what I'm just going to talk about?
Okay, but I think, aren't we doing subcommittee reports right now, not board policy?
Oh, I'm going to talk about those at a separate time. Okay, no, that's okay. I wasn't sure if I was going to highlight them here. So I'm just going to talk to you guys and let you know that we had a board policy committee meeting, of which you were there as well. So feel free to save the day here and jump in if you'd like to. And it was basically, as you know, and you will see when we get to the item on the agenda, most of what we have to do when it comes to board policies are mandated law changes. And then those that require a little more attention, staff will determine that they need more review or how they might need to be edited or adjusted to fit our campuses and our students. So that will become a little bit clearer as we get to the agenda item specifically about board policies. But at that point, I'm giving you just the high overview look of that. Trustee Simon, would you like to add anything into that item at this point? No. Okay. No. That will conclude my board policy report. Now we are going to move on to the St. Helena Teachers Association report to the board. Miss Angie Bond, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angie. I'm here for Mark tonight. He's at a soccer game. So I really will be quick. I don't have a lot to say because, I'm in my little St. Helena Elementary School bubble, but we just finished our parent-teacher conferences, which went really well. We met with all the parents, talked about student goals for the year, and discussed their progress. We continue to work on our PLC data cycles. We're doing that consistently every week, and doing BTC lessons every week, once a week in third grade. So everything's going well, and that's all I have to report. So thank you.
Thank you, Angie, for being here. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm staying on track here. California, okay, at 9F is the California School Employees Association, CSEA, report to the board. Ms. Josefina Garcia and Mrs. Nikki Myers, are you going to join her as well, or? Okay, great. Thank you for being here.
Okay, I'll be fast. I'll talk fast. I want to thank y'all for allowing me to speak tonight. As you know, I'm Josefina Olvera Garcia. I'm the Santa Elena CSEA Chapter 287 Vice President. The CSEA Board and the members want to thank the board for approving our 5.67% salary increase for the 2024-2025 school year. The increase will certainly help offset the increased costs for goods and services. We have some celebration to share with you guys. We have paraeducators who have been tested and qualified to be bilingual interpreters, giving them a 2.5 increase. The district is paying an office staff members a 5% out of class increase to assist a diabetic student. All special education paraeducators who had less than 6.5 hours have been increased to 6.5 hours, are also impacting their benefits. They now have full health coverage for them and their families. We appreciate the salary increase and are grateful for the other opportunities to be compensated for our expertise. We have had a shortage in food services and worked with Angela Baxter and the food service director and Dr. Kay Vang to offer extra hours to the other members to make up the time until we have all positions filled. We appreciate the food service staff for taking that extra hours and thank both Angela and Dr. Kay for jumping in this to support our food services when needed. And then there was a tremendous turnout for the Fiesta de Octubres. Even though I was not there, I saw many pictures and videos, as you can see on the screens. And it was a joy to watch the parents' faces as their students performed. The community event has been a wonderful way to draw our schools and our diverse culture together. We recognize the parents that donated their homemade food to highlight the regions they immigrated from and then wearing their cultural outfits. We appreciate the support of the district in paying for the dinner provided free to all the families. We also want to thank the Santa Elena Public School Foundation for the grant to purchasing the traditional Guatemala clothing for the TK students to wear. These community events are one of the reasons that make Santa Elena a special place to be in. And then finally, on November 6th, we participated on the Wellness Wednesday. We want to give thank you to Santa Elena for allowing all employees a chance to interact with each other. Across the district, we were offered cooking classes, mocktail classes, spin, walking, yoga. I'm going to butcher this word, macrame. Is that correct? Macrame. I'm not, yeah. That word. I did that. But even though we didn't do that, we did some tile thing. But it was really fun and really entertaining. I did that one. So it was really fun to see that and the Brazilian groove. This opportunity for classified and certificated members was awesome to build relationship, is much appreciated, and it was a great time we had. We want to thank the North Bay School authorities for their support of employees' wellness. Finally, as classified employees, we commit to serving the Santa Elena Unified School District as fellow educators to promote best outcome for students. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. And we really appreciate you highlighting all of that for your CSEA members because, as we know, they're an integral part to the school running day in, day out. So thank you. That Wellness Wednesday looked amazing. And I know, Miss Madrigal, you always hide in the shadows for the kudos, but we know that that's all you. So thank you for doing that and organizing that for the staff. But thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Okay, items under communications now, G, H, I, and J are all the principal reports to the board, which are written reports. As always, thank you, principals, for highlighting all that you do in those reports, including the volunteers. And the numbers for that Fiesta de Octubre were off the charts, so congratulations on that. I'm sorry that I had to miss it. I was not in town, but it sounded great. So thank you very much. So with that, we're going to take a short recess, and we'll give us about 10 minutes, and we'll be right back here to reconvene in open session. Thank you.
sure she got tea.
She got some tea.
Okay. We are ready to reconvene in open session. Thank you for your patience. We're going to resume with item 10, which is board-related items, and then item A is information and approval of board policy updates, October 2024 or November 2024? Is it really? Okay, got it. We did meet in October, as we just discussed previously. So with that, you'll see that there are many board policies and ARs. Our focus as governing board is board policies. They are the what, the ARs are the how. And that is for school sites to determine on how to administer those board policies. So there are a few highlights we're going to go over, and Dr. McClay, are you going to help me with that?
Sure, I'm happy.
Okay.
I'm happy.
Thank
to,
you so
yes.
much.
We also wanted to share, though, just for anyone in the audience and those folks watching, that most of the changes that occur to board policies are a result of legislative changes at the state level. And so the California School Boards Association weighs in. They send us policy updates to consider after the legislative cycle. Our committees get together, talk about how those suggested or required changes from the state will impact us at the local level. So we've got a lengthy list this month, but we've chosen 3 to highlight for you. The first one is Board Policy 5144.1. That's suspension and expulsion / due process. And we've asked Principal Cinto to come up to share a little bit about this one and what it means for us and our students. Thank you.
All right. So the first, the board policy, not the administration, if you remember, we reviewed both. Actually, it doesn't change too much of anything because we were ahead of the game when it came to not suspending students. So if you recall, that kind of graduated in, I think it was, correct me if I'm not, first, you can't suspend students for disruption defiance up to 3rd grade, then it went all the way up to 8th grade. We haven't suspended a student for 48,900K in years at the high school. So, I mean, we felt it was just appropriate. So, even though that's a change to state law, we've been doing that in St. Helena High for years. It also talks about prohibiting districts from suspending or expelling a student solely for truant, tardicy, or other absent-related things. We haven't done that for years either. If you know, we have a pretty rigorous SARB process, and we never suspend for truancy or anything like that. For the AR, the district is encouraged to implement restorative justice practices, but it's not required. When we look at board policy, as many of you already know, we look at the word shall and may and encourage very differently in terms of our obligation of what we have to do versus what we want to do. But I know at a lot of our schools, we do PBIS, restorative justice practices already. And then the last one was something that's been in a long practice here in our district is not suspending kids for more than 5 days unless you're recommending expulsion. We've long practiced legally if you're suspending a student who receives special education services, you hold a manifestation determination given your inability to suspend them to determine if the reason for their suspension is a product of their disability. So we've done that from time to time, and never has it been a result of their disability why we suspended that student. So all in all, nothing really significant for us because we've been ahead of the game on a lot of these practices.
Thank you, Mr. Cinto.
Yep.
And then I know, Dr. McClay, the next 2 that we decided to highlight were Board Policy 9010 and 9012. And the reason for selecting those is because it pertains to us as board members. And just that to make sure that you have reviewed this policy to understand about public statements, and basically just knowing that if you make a statement somewhere, that you're speaking as an individual and not on behalf of the board. I will give a personal example. As I, for example, I submitted a public comment to the city council meeting this week, but I on the bottom of my of a reply of my email, I had put an asterisk saying this is my personal opinion and does not reflect my role on the St. Helena Unified School District, because I was referring to public comments and I was using my experience as a trustee, but not using it on behalf of the board. So that's just something to be mindful of if you participate in other forms of government within our community or at a higher level. Anything else you want me to point out about that policy, staff, that you think
The only thing you might just pay close attention to the social media piece on that it also applies
Yes.
to social media posts and making sure that we're respecting First Amendment rights of folks who might be posting or commenting on social media.
Okay. And then the other one is electronic communications. And again, it's basically remembering that you are, for public, okay, hold on. You are a public figure, so therefore public records requests can come to us at any time. So to be mindful of how you're communicating in the electronic world, to who you're communicating, because everything could be subject to the Public Records Act. That's one of my takeaways from that. And I think, obviously everybody has read these policy changes to know. Anything else, Dr. McClay, you think I should highlight on that?
No, I think that's perfect.
Okay. Trustees, any questions about any of these other, well, hold on one moment before I go there. Is there anyone participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment, or present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? And trustees, any questions on this agenda item?
I just have a comment. See, it helps when you're not a spring chicken and you're technologically inept. I don't have to worry about posting the wrong thing because I don't know how. So there you go.
Okay. As always, thank you to the policy committee and to the staff, and including Ms. Madrigal, who does the work to figure out what is needing to be updated and what is required by law. That's really important for our district, and she does the heavy lifting on that. So thank you. Is there a motion to approve the board policy revisions as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Item 10B is request to accept gifts, donations, or earmarked funds. I am going to ask Trustee Simon to be so kind as to read our donations, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's take a look here. Okay, so St. Helena High School has received the following donations totaling $6,200. $1,000 donated by Penterman Farming Company. That's donated to the softball team for the softball championship rings. $5,000 donated by Tecumseh, thank you. I want to always get those names right with our donations. Tecumseh Foundation, Sue Wing, donated to drama, donation for play needs, very generous donation. And $200 donated by Anthony McKelly, donated to the Interact Club, and it's a donation. So we are incredibly grateful for all of our donations, and I would love to thank the 3 donations we received this month. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any additional questions or comments about this agenda item? Okay. Thank you again to all our donors. Is there a motion to approve the gifts, donations, or earmarked funds as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. 10C is the written report on the district of choice for the 2024-2025 school year. This is a written report, trustees, that we're provided strictly for information right now. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? No. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. On to item 11, student learning and achievement. Consideration of approval for the St. Helena Unified School District 2024-2025 site strategic action plans. Thank you for being there. Mrs. Romo Flores, go ahead and get started, please.
Well, good evening, trustees. So I am here asking you to approve the St. Helena Unified School District 2024-2025 school plans for student achievement, also referred to as site strategic plans. And I just wanted to let you know that you'll be approving 2 plans this year. As you know, we're almost halfway through the year and we're asking you to approve a plan now. And so we really are trying to get ahead of the game. Our 2024 data is embargoed, but we will have it accessible by December. And so Dr. Vang and I have discussed having a day with the principals where we're going to be looking at that data, seeing how it aligns with our LCAP goals and creating some actions to really address our data. And so we'll be asking you to approve the plans this evening, but then we'll be coming back in May or June with the plans for the following year, because we really want to make sure that we're getting things in place before, have a vision of what we want to do with those funds, our district and site funds. And so, so you'll be seeing site plans twice this school year, okay? The plans were created with staff and parent input, and they are vetted with the school site council. The school site council does approve the plan. The English Learner Advisory Council gives feedback and input, and they are aligned with the district's local control accountability plan. And this evening, you're going to hear more in-depth presentation from the elementary school about their plan. And then in the future, you will hear from the rest of the site principals. And so do you have any questions?
Thank you so much. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
I had a few, but now I'm realizing I probably should wait until the next agenda item, because we're reviewing the elementary school. And I had other questions about some of the other school plans, but I've sent them directly. It will be addressed outside of this meeting because it would be too lengthy.
Okay, great. And
So I just kind of want to share that.
okay. So you posed your questions to Dr. McClay already?
Yes, I
okay.
did, and then I'll wait for my questions related to the elementary school for the next item. So I spoke too soon, sorry.
Okay, not a problem. But trustees, anything else? And why we're... No, thank you so much for... I know this is a lot of paperwork, as they say, but I do know that we benefit from reading those. I love... personally, the conclusions from the data that are extrapolated and come, because I almost sometimes start with that and then go back and read the data that supports those conclusions. So again, we do find value in them, and we appreciate it. So thank you. With that, is there a motion to approve the 2024-2025 site strategic plans as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Magical will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. 11B is presentation of the 2024-2025 St. Helena Elementary School Site Strategic Plan. Dr. Emery, please.
Good evening, everybody. Great to see you. Thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about my wonderful little school. I'm going to just kind of piggyback right off of what Araceli was speaking about. So we're going to start with our process. She did mention that we have to share our plan with several different groups, correct? So we start with looking at a lot of pieces of data, different kinds of data that obviously do include the state standards, the standardized tests, but it also includes surveys. It also includes collaborative conversations and discussions with our teachers, with our classified staff. And we start taking a look at where we are going to have to continue to focus our improvements, where our strengths might be. And it's kind of a process that goes back and forth. So it goes from small groups to larger group, maybe the whole staff, and we start talking about our big goals. We go back to smaller groups at grade levels. We go back to maybe just the classified staff who supervises our students at recess and lunch times. We take this information also to our PTG, to our principals' coffees, share it with our parents at that time, gain more input, more feedback, and continue our process. So it goes back and forth for a couple months, pretty much. From there, we do start forming our goals, and of course, they have to align to our district goals. So by the end of this process, and I will go through, obviously, through each one of the goals, but by the end of this process, it goes back to school site council. By that time, they've seen at least the beginning of it about 3 times, and then that's when we ask for a vote, an approval vote, and it goes back to the staff so that they can look at it, and then it gets sent to you. So it's a back and forth process. So as I mentioned, we need to align our goals to the LCAP plan, right, for our district. So you're going to recognize that our 3 goals are very much in line with our district. Obviously, we're school first, and so academic growth is our very first goal. It includes all of our students improving, but also recognizing that there is an achievement gap. And what are we going to do about that? That's our first goal. Our second goal is maintaining a welcoming and nurturing school environment. And that is going to be kind of overarching for, in order to achieve our first goal, we need to have an environment that students can take risks at, feel comfortable in, and therefore they can make that academic growth. Very, very important. And then our third goal, that one has to do with increasing not just our student engagement, but that's always an issue, but also including all of their family members and their own support groups in this. So we have to make sure that we're doing outreach, that we have that welcoming and nurturing school environment that applies also to our families. I don't know why I'm like all of a sudden very, very thirsty. And as I mentioned, a lot of it, it's also an opportunity for us to take a look at our strengths, to figure out where we are doing really well so that we can build on that, and then take a look at where our areas are for growth. So we'll continue on to goal number 1 in a little more detail. The visual that I decided to include, and this is the same slide deck that I used for student council. It's the same slide deck that I used for the ELAC. So I didn't change anything because this particular, it's basically the same information. It just varies slightly and improves every time you share it with another group. So our goals have to be SMART goals, right? They have to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. But this particular goal, goal 1, is, like I mentioned, all about academics. So the goal itself is detailed in, thank you, detailed in about, thank you, by how much we're going to grow. And when you, can we go back to the first page? I just want to make a point about the percentages that I set out here. It may not seem like we're reaching for the stars here. We're reaching for improvement. It's continuous improvement. And this has to be looked at as a minimum amount. But in order for us to identify specific students, numbers of students, it's really good to actually just put a number down. And what happens when you do this is you're putting forth a very attainable goal so that we can make our plans towards that. And we intend to surpass them, of course, but this would be like the minimum that we could be happy with if we increase by at least this each and every year. Now you can go on. Thank you. More important than the goal itself is the actions that are going to support this goal coming to fruition. So you will see a lot of different things that come into play here, and I just wanted to highlight a few of the most overarching, but each one of these actions really do encompass a lot of different activities that we are doing at our school on an ongoing basis. So professional learning communities, we've heard so much about PLC this, PLC that, all we do is PLC. Well, PLC really encompasses so many little actions throughout. A PLT is a professional learning team. That's every single grade level. It could also be our special ed teachers together. It could be our classified. It could be our classified parapros with the teachers that they support. It could be the principal's PLT. So there's a lot of PLT meetings, a lot of small meetings that allow for teachers to really kind of dig into exactly what they're teaching, why they're teaching it, what it looks like when it's really successful, and what we're going to do when it isn't, and what we're going to do for students that kind of get it right away and need to move on, right? So that's what you will see with PLC cycles. You'll see data cycles there. Data cycles and progress monitoring, that is around each individual student. That is around assessing students throughout maybe a unit. It could be at different stages of that unit. There's a lot that goes on in a unit of instruction, and it takes long. It could take a week. It could take 4 weeks. It could be a unit that takes them a little bit longer than that. So, and it also could be a unit that teachers are teaching as an introductory piece, and they're going to come back to it in a couple of months under a different content. So there's a lot of long-term planning and short-term planning that goes into these meetings. The second big item that you see here as our action is one that you're going to continue to see regularly because it is key. It's best first instruction. This is actually a result of all of our PLT meetings. This is when teachers talk about what it is that we're going to teach and how do you think, what do you think is the best way to teach this? And they have one opportunity per se every time to go and teach everyone the same exact thing. From that moment, they're going to be able to figure out through what we call CFM, some common formative assessments. They're going to be able to tell who needs a little bit different instruction, who needs a little more practice, who needs some independence, who needs some more collaborative time with their peers, and et cetera. So you'll see there that first best instruction does include tier 2, which is that differentiation. So teachers teaching and then some differentiation that happens within the classroom itself. The very cool thing that's been happening this year that wasn't happening the year before was that tier 2 instruction, and even now the tier 1 instruction where our teachers are mixing students. That is something new for this year that we're finding to be very, very exciting. Our teachers are taking all of the 3rd grade team or all of the 5th grade students to be their students. We're moving students around because it doesn't really matter what roster they're on. It's about what they need. And so that's been coming out of a lot of our PLT meetings, and it's still considered tier 1. It's still considered your tier 1 and tier 2, your best first practice, first instruction. The next bullet that I have there is integrated and designated ELD. We know that we are students that come to us that are learning language, the English language, possibly for the first time. This is something that's going to take 4 to 7 years. I got to step back from this, I'm sorry. It's something that's going to take 4 to 7 years to really master any kind of a new language. And students need to be guided, they need to be given practice, they need to be given examples. And this is something that not all students will need, right? So it's something that is considered a tier 2. And it is integrated, means that it is given throughout the class when students are with everybody in their first instruction. And then the designated is when students are taken to the side and given instruction that is specific to their language needs, whether they're at a very beginning level, at an intermediate level, et cetera, depending on where they're at, so that they can actually acquire the academic English that they need to show what they know. So ELD for our English learners. I also included this year a new thing for us is BTC, Building Thinking Classrooms. This has opened up the door for our teachers and our students to even talk about math in a different way, to discuss math differently, to explore different ways to show what they know and learn from each other. Peers really, really do enjoy being able to learn from each other. You're seeing a lot more engagement. It is very obvious how good this is for our English learners. It is allowing them to articulate a little bit better, even if for our very beginners, it might be mimicking at first. It might be very structured with some sentence support, but it does give them a voice. So we really are seeing our math time come alive when we're doing this. And you'll see it at different levels, in different grade levels. Angie mentioned in 3rd grade, they're doing it at least once a week. 4th grade, they're jumping in a little bit more. In 5th grade, can't remember who mentioned it, but it might have been our superintendent. Oh no, it was Sunny that mentioned that our 5th grade, they're compartmentalizing a little bit more. So we have math being taught by 2 teachers, language arts being taught by 2 other teachers, and our students, again, are going back and forth. The last bullet that I have is an action for goal number 1 is our tier 3 MTSS, our multi-tiered systems of support. You're going to see MTSS in goal number 1 and also in goal number 2. Multi-tiered systems of support really takes care of 3, it's again, another big arching, all of these are big arching actions that have a lot of small actions underneath. In this particular case for goal 1, it is addressing, or I'm indicating the support that we get for academics. This is our tier 3, which is more differentiated instruction, more support for our students that are still struggling and needing it. It includes also progress monitoring, so meetings that I might have with teachers, talking about each individual student, looking at different data points, and looking for that growth for each individual student. When we don't see it, what are we doing about it? The other thing that MTSS is also really important for our MTSS team is monitoring our attendance at school. Students will do better if they attend school every single day. So it is something that we check every single week. We talk about who might be the students that need the first call from me. Obviously, they're getting an automatic letter right away, but the call is a little bit different. And then there's meetings that happen after that, and we bring in Selene Roblero, who our community liaison. We figure out if there's any other things, any other barriers that we might not know about, that we might want to help our families and get them out of the way as much as possible, make sure that our students are attending school every single day and are not missing out on any of that best first instruction. Let me see if there's anything else here. Another thing that we've done for our actions is created for our school a dashboard. Our teachers now can access all of their plans, all this planning that we're doing and instruction and collaborative instruction that's happening at our school is now being housed in our Google Drive in a manner where they can check out what's happening in every single one of the grades, and we're adding to it and creating kind of a clearinghouse so that we don't have to start from scratch every time that we start a different unit. I think we're going to stop there for our goal number 1. Goal number 2, as mentioned before, is about maintaining and welcoming and nurturing school environment. This one, it might be sometimes a little bit harder to measure because the data doesn't come quite as clean, but it does usually have to do with surveys. We do have the California Healthy Kids Survey that we look at, but that's only one small grade at one particular time. So we're looking into different ways, and we've tried different, like the Kelvin surveys, we've tried different things to get students to let us know how they're feeling And if they feel that they have an adult at school that they can go to, if they feel comfortable making mistakes, and learning from one another, or, you know, a lot of different questions. And so we're trying to work our way so that our student council can support some of those surveys. So there'll be more to come with that. And some actions to support this goal. Click, thank you. As I mentioned, the MTSS team, it is an overarching umbrella. The first piece is academics. The second two pieces have to do with social emotional learning and with behavior supports. So our social emotional learning scope and sequence at our school has been developing really very nicely. We added character development last year. This year we're making sure that it's aligned with the competencies that we want students to learn, like coping skills, self-regulation skills, those kinds of competencies that we know students need, align them with character traits like being a good citizen. When we focus on citizenship, for example, we're focusing on anti-bullying, on reporting versus tattling, on how do you help someone that's out there that it might be being treated badly. It's not necessarily, it might not be bullying, but someone that might be needing a helping hand. We talked a lot about compassion, for example, and that one is empathy in action. We teach kids that they have a lot of power in creating that welcoming and nurturing environment that we're trying to build, that it's something that the adults can't really do for kids, that we all have to do our part, and that their little bodies have a lot of power in creating that kind of environment in our school. So these things are talked about at least twice a week on Mondays and Fridays as a whole school assembly. And then they're also reinforced in the classroom setting with different scenarios and things like that, a lot of discussions and role playing. The second part of MTSS is behavior. I think it was Mr. Cinto that was talking about our PBSI, or that's PBIS, that's a mistake right there. PBIS, our positive behavior support, intervention and support. That has to do with a lot of rules that make sense. So very research supported, research based, 3 main rules for the school: be safe, be respectful, be responsible. But underneath those rules, again, a lot of umbrellas at our school. Underneath those rules is how do you show respect in the cafeteria versus the library versus walking through the hallway? How are you being safe in the hallway, in the auditorium, in the classroom? The different types of behavior. Again, it's all about giving students that knowledge, that practice, and the feeling of they have the power and to create this environment for our school. It's just about knowing what that is. The other thing you'll see there, it's not necessarily a part of MTSS, but it is a part of our behavioral impact for students, or our behavioral support for students, and that's restorative practices. We had all of our teachers this year participate in 2 professional developments on restorative practices, and basically that is a different approach to misbehavior. A different approach in that instead of discipline punishment, you're talking about, let me hear from you what you saw happen. Who do you think was impacted by it? And that's always eye-opening for students, because usually when they do something and you say, who do you think was impacted by this? They'll say me, because I got caught. But then you lead them in a conversation about who might have been negatively impacted by their action, and sometimes they're surprised that it might even be not just the person you were mean to, but the people around that person that were playing a game and had to stop or had to listen to it. Sometimes it's your parents, because now they're going to be very upset that they have to talk to you. Sometimes it's the principal that had to spend, some time talking to you and this other student. Maybe it's the nurse that was doing something else and then had to go fix the scraped knee. So we talk about huge impacts and help students realize that, again, they have power to mend and to repair any kind of damage or infraction that they might have caused. hopefully helping them realize that that's a skill that they have throughout their lives. So that's restorative practices. Student leadership, our student council is going very well. We have a kindness club. We have our student council members helping run the rallies and different events at our school, including events to give back. So in January, we have a big event coming up, our Heart Heroes campaign, where we raise money for the American Heart Association. And it's a lot of fun because they make it a lot of fun. They get a lot of little prizes for this, but it's also a lot of learning about how to keep your body healthy and safe, and at the same time, how to give to support things like research. And then finally, for goal 2, I have some more professional development on keeping our school equitable for everyone, and how there are small biases that we may not be aware of that we need to get sharper on. And so that kind of learning, we had teachers go to the Tolerance Museum over the summer, and part of what they want to bring back and implement is social justice standards also for students, and they're by grade level, and they talk about, again, giving students some power to create a place that is fair and equitable for everybody. That would be for goal 2. Goal 3, increasing our student engagement and our communication with parents and our families. We can go right to the actions for this one because, again, these tend to be a little bit tougher to measure, but we do try to keep sign-in sheets for our parents when they are involved in different things. It is a little bit hard to do. Some of the things that I have on here are family events like the Fiesta de Octubre and our Dia del Niño in April. So you're going to see that a lot of these events, a lot of these efforts might be the same ones from the year before, but it's really about making it better, making it more inviting, having students be more, parents be more involved in the events. One of the things that is new on this list is our parent ELAC meetings that the 4 principals are doing together, one at each site. I think we've had 2 already, and I think they've been really, really successful. They seem to be growing, and our format is gaining a really good structure where we get some time to be with our own families, and then come together, all of our parents together. We're seeing a lot of interaction, and it was the last one that we had in November. We had at our school at SHUSD, and parents were so involved, and so they were so into the presentation. We were kind of amazed at how present they were. We're providing childcare. We're providing food. We, as in you all and us. Thank you very much. But I think we're getting the word out that it's really important that our parents participate in this and let us know also what they want from these events. So it's going really well. Another thing is we're going to be adding a math and a reading night this year at SHUSD, which we haven't had, at least not since I've been there. So something new for that, and we're looking forward to doing those. That would take care of the actions for goal 3, and that's all of our goals for our site plan this year.
Thank you, Dr. Emery.
You're welcome.
One moment, please, while I get back on my right page here. Trustees, do you have any, I guess I need to ask for public comment first. If there's anybody present or via Zoom who would like to publicly comment on this agenda item. Trustees, any questions or comments for Dr. Emery?
I did have some, but my questions were actually from the 235-page document, so I put my page numbers down, and I don't know how to equate it to this. So
Okay.
I don't know if it's even, one of my questions is about, there was a chronic absenteeism problem.
Yes.
And it was a significantly, I think the term was significantly, see now it's going across pages. It's gone down significantly. And I'm curious what, hold on, let me find my question again. Are you seeing any themes? Like what, because I don't know what your actions are. You have to have themes to address it. I guess I'm curious what, because I didn't see something specific to that.
Well, it's we do have. I think we were recovering the data that you're talking about is from 22-23, I believe. It's not from last year. It's from the year before, right? And
The
so
dashboards were old, but the charts
It is.
showed last school year, I thought.
no,
Oh,
the
okay.
data that's in there is
2 years old.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean we're not trying to address it, right? And it is part of our weekly conversations at the MTSS weekly meetings. Who is in that chronic list? And it's basically about, it ranges between 4 and 7 students, and it's like I mentioned, a conversation. There are meetings. We have meetings that can get to a level of a SART meeting, not quite a SARB meeting, but a SART meeting where you sit down and you talk about the legality, the legal obligations parents have. And then again, like I mentioned, we do talk about, try to discover any kind of barriers that our families might need. And we monitor and we call, and we've shifted a couple of bus routes to support that. We do what we can. As far as, we do have some families that have trips and have extracurricular, which I'm sure they're learning a lot in their extracurricular trips. There's skiing, there's different kind of competitions.
I saw a call out of vacation versus
Yes.
having a problem getting to school. So I see those as different. but
Right.
I guess that's what I was
Totally
just-
different,
there's-
and it's a different meeting, it's a
Yep.
different call, it's
Sure.
a different conversation.
Right.
And then you also look at the student, like, is this a student that is going to be fine and doing fine if they're gone for a week? We can give them some work, we can give them a little bit. It's obviously never the same, but it is addressed on a case-by-case basis.
And then another question was, so you basically talked to it, so the percent growth slide, I forget which slide number it was.
That's goal number 1.
So it was a 5% target growth for white students, 8% for Hispanic, and then for English language learner. And in the other document, it lists out, so a 5% increase is 3 children, so it's like 1 per grade. So you've clarified that that's like your minimum goal?
Right. Well, and not necessarily 1 per grade, because it would be when we sit down to talk to teachers by grade, it's at least to increase 5% of the students you already have at an achievement rate, but it's also maintaining all of the students that are already there, that are already, for example, 3s and 4s. That's a whole year's worth of growth in order for them to stay where they're at.
Sure.
So it's just adding to.
So, but you mentioned that that's a low.
It's a
or
minimum.
And I guess in my head, I was equating it to, in the college application process, the guidance counselors say, what are your safe schools, what are your target schools, and what are your stretch schools? So do you actually have written stretch goals for this? Beyond the
Stretch
safe? Like 10% is where, so sometimes when you put a percent down that's higher, it's like, oh, we could get there.
Oh.
I guess when I heard you say, we just know we're going to get this, then it was thinking, oh, well, what's our stretch goal?
This is our minimum. Our stretch would be all of them. I mean, this is our minimum. This is what the least amount that we want to ensure are going to go up to be. In CASP, they have to be at a certain level, but all students are going to grow. It's just they might not get to that level because they might be 1s or 2s. So they might not make it to a 3, but they're all going to grow.
Yes. Yeah. I think that was it for those. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Trustees, anything else for Dr. Emery? No? Okay. Do you have one? Okay.
No, I see what you mean, because we just have concerns about, like, when we're looking at CAS scores and math growth, because we've talked about that here before. And we would want to see higher percentages of growth to start meeting the levels that we want to get to in math. But I am understanding the point of putting the minimum growth. It's difficult. It doesn't feel good that we're moving the needle. So help me feel better.
Right. And I know I mean, honestly, whenever I write that goal, and I've been writing these goals for many years, and I was just never allowed to put in there at least 5 percentage points for all students. But when you're looking at all students, it's each roster. And so teachers will sit there and we'll go, okay, who are these kids going to be? Who are the kids that last year were 2s that this year for sure are going to be 3s? Mm-hmm. And then we have to keep our 3s and our 4s where they're at. They can't slide back. That's a whole other group and a whole other set of strategies that we're putting into place. And then we have our students that are 1s that are going to make it to 2s, but they're not going to get counted in this test. They won't count. They won't show up. But we're going to move them to 2s. They're just not going to show up because that's not the way that test is measured. Okay. So I think that maybe what I want to do is the benchmark assessments, the ones that we do. I'm sure we could increase those by a different amount. It's just statistically speaking, when it comes to the CASP scores, like I mentioned, even if students grow, if they don't make it to a 3 because that's how far they were, even if they grew a really respectable amount, when you're talking statistically with the CASP scores, if students remain where they're at, so a 2 to a 2 the next year, that's a full year's growth. That is not staying the same because it's the next year's test, right? So it's a full year's growth already. So that is growth. And then if we want to move them into those brackets of 3s and 4s, that's in addition. So for the CASP specific measurements, that is a very respectable growth. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Emery. Anything else, trustees? Appreciate it very much. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 11C is consideration of approval for the revised 2024-2025 district safety plan. You're already there.
Hi.
Thank you again. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so first of all, I have to give kudos to St. Helena Unified School District because these plans are not due to be approved. They need to be approved by March 1st, and so typically we see these in districts. I used to be at the county office in Sonoma County. They don't get approved until like February.
Okay.
So the fact that St. Helena Unified has been looking at taking safety so seriously and embarking on this work early on to get these plans to be board approved, council approved, and then board approved by November is really impressive. So I just wanted to shout out to our principals for getting that done. But it is a requirement that every year that the districts and sites look at their comprehensive safety plans and make any revisions that are necessary. And so they need to be approved by the school site council, and they need to address natural disasters, other disasters, hate crimes, school violence. So it's looking at every possible scenario and creating a plan for that. It includes safety drills that we need to do. Elementaries do it on a monthly basis. And so all of this is embedded in these comprehensive safety plans. We intentionally do not post these safety plans or share the safety plans with the tactical information. We do that for safety reasons, and so they are available upon request, but we do remove the tactical information from the plans that we share with the public, and that's for student safety. Yeah. So again, the plans are required to be board approved by March 1st, and we are bringing them to you tonight to get approved.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thanks. Sure. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or the president who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? No, thank you. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? Okay.
I'm going to ask a question that I just realized I think you asked last year, that the fire department did not sign off on this one, and I think it was just didn't have time before it was presented. I think was the answer last year.
Is there, where do you see a missing?
Page 5.
Oh,
Oh, is it 2 also? Oh, it's every school site?
well, I don't see, I see it on the very last page.
Last page.
Page 5 of 5. So it could, I did ask that last year.
I know.
Do we know if there's a reason why the fire chief has not signed off? No? Okay.
You know, Ben?
I think so.
Okay.
But I could check. I believe they've been sent and reviewed by the fire department. I just don't think we've had the opportunity to gather their signature.
Okay.
But I'll double check.
Well, we are
5 minutes.
well, we're also, as we've just learned that we have gold star status of
Exactly.
completing this in November. So we have time to get one signature by all means, as needed. So, thank you. And I'm sure that's just what it is getting everybody to sign in a timely
It's fine
manner.
for us to approve without it.
You can approve without it. You can also approve contingent on getting the signature, so then we don't have to bring it back to you. But we
Okay,
have
so
to-
we'll do it that way.
Thank you.
Just to, thank you. Any other questions, trustees? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2024-2025 District Safety Plan contingent upon the one remaining signature needed as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carried. Thank you. Item 11D is the presentation of the 2024 California Healthy Kids Survey data. Oh, yeah, okay. And you're right there, so you just stay put and go again.
Okay, so give you a little background. So, why do we participate? Can you hear? Oh, thank you. So, why do we participate? So, LEAs or districts are required at a minimum to annually administer a local climate survey in order to address the local control funding formula LCFF Priority 6, school climate. So, that's a requirement. And the survey must capture a valid measure of student perceptions of school safety and connectedness in at least one grade within each grade span the LEAs serves. And at a minimum, report disaggregated data by student groups identified in California, Education Code 52052, when such data is available as part of the local school climate survey. So these are the requirements of the survey that we must administer as part of in order to have our LCAP approved. So who participates? Oh, sorry. I jumped again. Okay, so just as a FYI, there are many surveys out there that meet the requirement. St. Helena Unified School District has chosen to use the California Healthy Kids Survey. So that survey has been used for the past several years, as far as I can tell. It is voluntary, it's anonymous, it provides data to help improve the well-being of students and the school environment. It guides decision-making to improve student learning and school climate, helps identify areas of strength and areas to improve through the LCAP, and SIPSAs, the School Plans for Student Achievement. So that's the goal, is for that information to guide actions in your school plans and in your LCAP. So who participates? In St. Helena Unified, because we're using the California Healthy Kids Survey, we administer it to 5th grade, so that takes care of the elementary span, and we administer it to 7th grade, that takes care of the middle school band, and then in 9th and 11th grade at the high school. So last year we had 66 5th graders that took the test, the survey. 77 students that took it in 7th grade, 95 students that took it in 9th, and 80 in 11th grade. And this is administered in the spring of last year. So going over our data, so what I'm going to present is just some of the highlights, some of the celebrations, and then some areas where we can grow. Okay, so just to explain this a little bit, you'll see that there's an orange line through these areas or these graphs, and that depicts the 2019-20 through 21 state average. So you're not going to see the orange line in all of the graphs because in some of the graphs these questions were not asked. In some of the years the questions were not asked for 2 years in a row. And so you'll only see this for those questions that were asked consistently year after year. Okay? So, and that's a 2019-21 state average. So I had a meeting with a representative from California Healthy Kids, and I asked why we didn't have more recent state averages, and they said they hadn't gotten to it. That was the response. So, they hadn't gotten to like formulating the state averages for more recent data. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so this is what we have. So based on what we have, and this is just as a side note, this is one survey. There are other options out there that we might want to consider that test more grade levels, for example, not test, but survey more grade levels than the 5, 7, 9, and 11. So there are other possibilities out there that we might want to look at. But this is the data that we have from the California Healthy Survey that students took last year. Okay, so I want to explain also that what you're looking at. So in the blue row, you'll see a number, and that's a percent of students that answered strongly agree or agree. So 80% of, in 2024, for example, for the elementary school, for school connectedness, 75% of our students answered strongly agree or agree with school connectedness. Does that make sense? So the other thing I want to point out is the reason that these are, we call them celebrations, is because they are above the state average. And in all areas, with the exception of high expectations, it's from 2023 to 2024, all of these areas have grown. So we're moving in the right direction. So I really want to call that out. So for school connectedness, we went from 72% of students feeling that they agree that they're have a strong school connection, to 75%. Academic motivation went from 87 to 84. So that's a little decline as well. But again, 84%. So that, oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry, I can barely see this. There's no way to make that bigger. Can you guys see the numbers? Okay, so academic motivation from 23 to 24, it went from 85 to 86, so slight growth. Caring relationships went from 66 or 68, I can't see it, I'm so sorry, to 74%, but again, a growth. There's, and then in high expectations, there was a slight decline there from 88 to 86. And then meaningful participation went from 23 to 24, from 41% to 43%. Perceived school safety went from 74 to 87, so a really nice gain there. So those are some highlights from the elementary school. Any questions about that one? Okay. Sorry, it's a small.
We'll wait, let you go through it, and then we'll ask questions, I think. Okay. We'll do it that way.
And then some more highlights are social emotional learning supports. So 77% of our students said that they strongly agree with the social emotional learning supports. And for parent involvement in schooling, it went from 75 to 82. And then facilities upkeep went from 72 to 82. So again, all nice gains. You'll notice a difference in color for the low violence victimization, and that's because we want that one to go down instead of up. And so we're going in the right direction. we went from 61 to 58. So nice to see that. So I just wanted to call out the reason why it's a different color band. Okay. And then for RLS and the high school, so both schools had strong, caring adult relationships. So at RLS, it was a nice gain from 66% of our students strongly agreeing that they have caring adult relationships to 73% in 2024. And then at the high school, caring adult relationships, that one took a little bit of drop from 2023 to 2024. But again, it's above the state average, but something to look at. And then for high expectations, RLS stayed steady at 81% of our students feeling that that there are high expectations for them, both 2023 and 2024. And at the high school, a little bit of a dip there from 79% to 73%, feeling that there are high expectations for them. And then at the high school, perceived safety, 77% of our students feel that that they're in a safe school environment. So that was nice to see. And again, there's no state average for this one because that question wasn't asked for 2 consecutive years or more. And I just want to call out what the asterisks, and some of these have asterisks. And the reason that they have asterisks is because they distinguish between these questions are only posed if you're in school or in a hybrid situation. If you're doing online schooling, because online schools also take this survey, they can't answer these questions. So it's for schools that are in session or doing a hybrid model only. Does that make sense? Okay. And so identified areas to address. So at the elementary school, fairness was an area that was not at the state average. But again, want to call out that they are making gains in the right direction from 64% to 68% of students feeling that there's fairness at the site. And then for anti-bullying, went, again, that one's a little bit of a decline, 71 to 69%. And I just want to call out also that, 2020 was during COVID, so it was, hybrid. Some schools were doing hybrid, and so I'm not really sure if that's a good comparison, but it's just information to call out for the state averages. All right, so school boredom. So this is another area that we want to address. So I want to go over this key just to make sure everyone understands it. So they ask students questions about how much they value school, and so they ask them to range how they perceive the value of an education. And then they also ask them to share whether they're kind of bored, somewhat bored, or very highly bored. And so we don't want to see any boredom, right? We don't want kids to feel like they're not being challenged or that they're not engaged. But this is the key that they use to measure boredom in schools. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so moving on. So at RLS, at RLS, and this is not given to 5th graders. So this question was not posed to 5th graders, only to 7th, 9th, and 11th grade. So at RLS, we had students that are, 26% of our students said that they were moderately bored. 16% of our students in 7th grade said that they're highly bored. And they highly value school. So that's a concern, right? So we want to make sure we're asking some questions and trying to determine why that is and what we can do to improve that. So I'm kind of focusing on that high value school boredom area more than the rest. But of course, we don't want any kids to be bored. And then at the high school, we had 26% of our students in ninth grade that claimed they were moderately bored, and 18% that were highly bored, that highly value education.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I think my brain's not working. I'm not sure I understand I get low boredom, moderate boredom, and then high value. I'm not quite sure I understand this chart.
Okay.
Probably
it's
just me.
kind of a little confusing. So students are asked to state if they value school. That's the first question, right? Like, do you think school is important? And so they give it a ranking of whether they think it's highly valuable, moderately valuable, or low value. And then they ask them the boredom question, like how engaged they are, or how meaningful the instruction is. And so that gives them the boredom. And so then they place those questions or those responses according to this chart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
You want everybody.
Exactly.
Color it lands on.
Yes.
This is I have what I think the answer is, but that doesn't mean it's right. What is our job in the school system to move children to think that the value of school is high?
That's a very lofty question,
I
Trustee
mean, I'm
Moore.
assuming it is.
Yeah.
Like, what is our target?
But before we go there, let's go through the presentation, and we'll do the questions and comments. It's not that I don't mean to. I'm not trying to squash voices. I just want to. That is a big question. So why don't you go ahead and continue with the presentation, and then we'll come back and address questions.
So here's how 11th graders responded. So again, the areas of concern are the moderate to high boredom for students that value school. So we had 25% of our students in 11th grade that were moderately bored, 21% of our 11th graders that were highly bored. And then other identified areas to address, this is at RLS specifically, meaningful participation. So that took a little bit of a dip, so we're at 26%, and of our students that feel that the participation is meaningful. So of course we want that to be higher. And then academic motivation, 54% of our students say that they're academically motivated. So again, we want that to be higher. And then at the high school, 26% of our students said that the participation was meaningful, and 54% of our students at the high school said that they were academically motivated. Okay, so these are some actions that the principals have shared that they are have put in place. So I just want to call out that this data, they didn't have a whole lot of time to process this data, so I just want to be fair to the principals. Sure. And the reason why Dr. Vang and I want to spend some time with them to really look at this data and look at our goals and look at our budgets and see what we can put in place for next year. I think next year's SIPSA, the one that you'll see in May and June, will have some actions that are really going to be targeting some of these areas of concern. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you.
So, so some of these are the actions. I'll let you read those.
Sure.
Some of these slides are going to be a little hefty, but give me a thumbs up when you're ready for me to click over to the next one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So these are some actions at RLS.
Thumbs up.
Okay, so this is the high school. That's right. We appreciate it. All right, so, yes, so these are some of the actions that are in place now that we hope to address those areas. But again, we're going to be spending some more time looking at our resources and really looking at this data carefully and sharing it with the sites, because honestly, I don't even think the principals have had time to share this at their school site yet.
Okay,
so.
fair enough. Thank you for letting us know that. That's important.
Any questions?
Okay, so I'll ask for public comment on this agenda item from those present or anyone online. Okay, trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
I'm going to withdraw my previous question for a later date, later time. And I think some of the questions I have, maybe I can just do in maybe a one-on-one with Dr. McClay.
Sure.
Because in general, though, so this Healthy Kids survey, I understood that we chose to only do 5th, 7th, 9th. Okay, so that is a product of the survey, and we do pay for this?
I'm not sure if we pay for this.
Okay. Because when you said they haven't had time to calculate the state average, I was just like, what? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we do, but I'm not sure. I don't remember ever having to pay for this.
Okay.
We don't pay for it. But if we used other surveys, we would have to pay for
Sure.
it. So
Okay.
it's something to consider.
Because the benefit of doing all of them is then you can track students, cohorts, and then you can see if our actions are
Right.
making a difference. So that's
Exactly.
the hard part. And then there were so many documents in here. And one of the things I guess I wish I had, which would just be a request, is a similar kind of a summary for the teacher results, because there was a lot in there. Just to make sure that we're looking at their feedback also and ensure that there are actions on that side as well, and if there's anything that we need to do. So
Right.
other than that, I'll just maybe have my questions more for one-on-ones.
Yeah. And just some commentary, it's not necessarily a question, and you answered one of them already, because I was surprised that the baseline was 2019, 2021, because I feel like we lived in a different time then. I mean, I call it BC, before COVID. And I mean, and I really found the 2020 graph bars, how high they were, to be almost impossible to believe. I'm not saying it's fabricated by any stretch of the imagination, but I was like, how could in 2020, when we left school in March of 2020, was the school connectedness so way above the state average? It's so. I'm not saying that I don't appreciate that, but I really was kind of focusing on 23 to 24 and using that as some kind of gauge. That's what I and I know the people in this room who, deal with this data know what to do, but I found that to be almost burdensome to try and sort through this. And there's a part of me with this particular survey, I will say that it's just one simple measurement, because we don't know how students feel on the day they take this test. I remember middle school quite clearly when my children were taking it, and it's like, I'm going to just circle in any bubble. Maybe I might draw. So you have to sometimes wonder how accurate. I hope it's accurate, but I also worry about something like that they're not necessarily taking it as serious as they know that we use the data for, because they are kids, right? And I'm not trying to discount it, but I look at this and I know there's so much more than what meets the eye here. But I appreciate that we do it. We've done it a long time. I just know that I was just solely focused on 2 years.
And I think maybe you said there's other out there. I think what I don't like is that it is voluntary. So just say we had 100 kids in our 9th grade and only 40 opt to take the test. And now we're saying, well, 50% of our students don't like da-da-da. Well, it's not really 50%. It's only 50. I mean, it's only like 20 kids out of 100. Like, the fact that it's voluntary, and I know you can't force me to do something, but it'd be great if we had something we present as, I don't want to say mandatory, because it's not a hard thing to do, but I'd love to find something that really captures a lot more than just 50% of our kids or 20% of our kids or something.
It does have to be voluntary, though. All of the
Yeah.
surveys are voluntary, and parents can opt their children out of it.
All right.
Maybe it's all in, presentation. Why are they taking it? Why are we making you waste your time during history class? How does this help the school, and how does this help us to grow and change and learn about the school? So maybe it's, some of it comes in that part too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but we are required to administer a survey of some sort, so. Go ahead.
The boredom part, I think, is the part that we're like not sure about. We're not. So my thought is that I think that it is really our student board rep doing her student engagement type of survey. And she mentioned that she's thinking about the high school and the middle school. And I think that would be really good as a start, because when it's coming from a student to student, it's a little bit different than some hefty computer. Okay, here we go. I got to take this healthy kids survey thing. And I'm not saying that I know what the kids are feeling when they're taking it. They might love it. I don't know. But so I think that that's a good start as far as having the survey have a student survey. Yeah.
And I will share with that Sunny, before she left tonight, said that she's working on with, I do believe it's Student Congress tomorrow, Mr. Cinto, to start to break down this Healthy Kids survey with the peers. So that might help formulate, maybe Dr. McClay, if you meet with her, taking this conversation and maybe somehow that translates into her survey that she may ask. Because to that point, it may be a little less daunting if it's student to student. Kind of thing.
And free donuts might help too.
Yeah. That's against ed code. Watch out. But sorry, Trustee Simon, or anything else to add on to this?
The only some of the questions that I thought could pinpoint a student's emotion a little bit better, because we know kids can come into school one day and feel one way and not another. But the questions regarding any sort of bullying, cyberbullying, name calling, jokes, that was all the time in the last 30 days, I thought was more telling information about any sort of chronic bullying at school. I did notice that at the elementary school, we have 35 Latino students and 5 Caucasian students who are experiencing cyberbullying all the time in the last 30 days. So I don't know, how can the schools address, when they look at these questions that have been answered that appear to be at least chronic in the last 30 days, how can that be addressed for kids to know that the school is a safe place to come if they feel like they're chronically being bullied that month? I feel like that question's more clear than somebody showing up and for the day and saying, "Do you feel sad?" And then they say, "Oh God, yeah, today was pretty sad. I didn't get what I wanted in my lunchbox," kind of thing. Those questions were a little more red flag to me of dealing with a chronic issue.
Yeah. So that's the kind of work that I think we need to do as an admin team, is really look at those questions and try to identify some actions that can be put in place. Like, do you want to have classroom meetings, for example? I'm just throwing some ideas out there, but do we want to start off the day with classroom meetings where people really talk about what's going on, what they're experiencing? There's different ways to approach it, but I think we need to have a conversation about some possibilities of how we address that.
Yeah, I would appreciate the ones that did offer, where kids did say all the time in the last 30 days. Yeah. Those could be addressed. Yeah. And I know they are, so thank you.
And maybe, Dr. McClay, if it works for staff, and it doesn't have to be another board presentation, but obviously the principals need time to digest this,
Yeah.
talk with staff, talk about however resources might need to be added. I mean, maybe perhaps we just get an update. Okay, okay. And however form you feel like that's necessary, in a superintendent's report or Friday memo, however you feel. But that way we can, just after everybody has time to settle into it and focus. So how does that sound, trustees? Okay. Okay.
One thing that I was noticing, that this is at the beginning of the slides, the highlights for St. Helena Elementary School. It's kind of interesting that the meaningful participation is so low statewide and on ours as well, where either from 2020 to 2024, and it's like 43%. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, it's interesting that it's not even that high to start with. So.
I know, but I often wonder at 5th grade, do you know what meaningful
means?
participation
that's what I'm thinking.
means?
It's like, well, what exactly does that mean?
I mean,
yeah.
I you know, sometimes I still question what meaningful participation could mean at my age. So it's you know, I mean, you know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be flippant. I don't mean disrespect by that, but I just think it is just one of those things. Like what? So
I'll give you some examples of some of the questions.
Okay, that'd be great.
For meaningful
Thanks.
participation at school, when I participate in school, I do interesting activities. Strongly
Okay.
agree, disagree.
Okay.
I help decide things like class activities or rules.
Okay.
I do things that make a difference. I have a say in how things work. I help decide school activities or rules.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. I appreciate that.
I think the natural answer to a lot of those is sometimes in a school setting anyway. I mean,
right.
if they're doing that all the time, that we're in trouble.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you putting this together for us. It's a lot of information, and we'll let everybody who's the professional absorb it and work on it, and we'll wait to hear back. So,
thank you.
Trustees, any closing comments or questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for your meaningful participation this evening. Okay. Item 11E is consideration of approval for the 2024-25 Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, the ELOP program. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you, President Pelosi. So today, Araceli and I are going to give you an update on our ELOP program for this year. But I wanted to start with the fiscal piece of this. Last year, when I closed the books, we had about $413,000 in carryover from last school year coming into this year. This year, our advanced principal apportionment is approximately about $331,000 in ELOP funds. So you can see that it's decreasing every year with our ELOP dollars. These are so far, these are supposed to be ongoing dollars, but every year we're receiving a little less. The allocation is decreasing. So our total ELOP funds that we're working with this year is a little over, it's about $745,000. And again, these are ongoing dollars intended to expand learning opportunities for all students with a focus on our TK 6 unduplicated students. So that would be our low income, foster youth, English learners. And we have two main partners that we are working with. We've got Little Backpacks for our TK program and Boys and Girls Club. I will turn over to Araceli to add anything else to the ELOP program. But the ELOP plan does need to be board approved, and once it's board approved, it does need to be uploaded to the district's website for transparency purposes. So as this living, breathing document is revised, we will bring it back to the board as needed for revision, and also at the end of the year for auditing, for our end of the year audit, our auditors will ask for a copy of this plan. So We will continue to refine the plan as we progress through the year. It does include with Little Backpacks and Boys and Girls Club, these are partners not only for the regular school year, but also for the summer program.
Thank you.
And the only thing I would add is that we also have after-school tutorials that we pay with these funds. So we have some teachers and classified staff that are willing to support students after school or before school, and so we can use these funds for that as well.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
I actually had a question, and I did not realize that we use little backpacks for kindergarten. I thought it was just TK. So
It is TK, but I think in the report it did say K, so
Yeah.
we need to revise that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
On page 3, Dr. Vang, at the top, second paragraph, I'm a little confused where it says, lastly, students in grades TK through 6 will be provided 6 weeks of expanded learning. Isn't it 3? Or is this something new?
Where are you?
It is in June, so in June, we've got about 3, you're right, we've got about 3 weeks in June. However, the ELOT plan does include intersession too, so like winter break, Thanksgiving, any of the breaks we have in between, we still have our partners, their programs are still open, so it does include those intersession periods as well.
Okay, then maybe we should say throughout the year instead of in the summer.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
We will definitely revise. Again, it's a living, breathing document. So as you're reading it, if it doesn't make sense to you, then we need to go back and clarify
absolutely.
for all of our readers, right? So thank you.
Thank you.
We're part of the team here, Dr. Vang, to help.
Working together, working
Yes.
together.
Trustees, anything else? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the 2024-2025 Expanded Learning Opportunities Program as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Okay, on to human resources. 12A is consideration of approval for the 2024-2025 certificated seniority list. Mr. Heller, please.
Hi, I've been here for 3 hours and I get to talk. Yay. Good evening. I'm just kidding. So anyway, the certificated seniority list is presented. Don't make me laugh. This action item establishes an annual ranking of our certificated employees based on the seniority in the district, which was established on their hire date. If we were in a situation that would require layoffs, this list determines which employees of least seniority would be considered first in this process. And you may recall we will address any tie-breaking procedures and a skipping and bumping and tie-breaking criteria, which I'll bring to you in January. This list has been reviewed by SHTA leadership and membership and is presented tonight as a final document, and the board's asked to approve this list.
Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? All right, trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
No questions, but I'm just amazed how long how many teachers have been here? 20 plus years, or
Right.
it's pretty amazing, the longevity on that.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the certificated seniority list as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Item 12B, consideration of approval for the 2024-25 seniority list for CSEA employees, classified management, and confidential personnel. Mr. Heller, please bring it home.
Again, yes, under the same premise as the previous item, this list establishes the same rank for our classified employees and classified management. It too has been presented to CSEA Chapter 287 membership for their review and presented tonight as a final document for the board to consider approval. I'd ask your approval.
Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? All right. Is there a motion to approve the seniority list for CSEA, classified management, and confidential personnel as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf? Aye. Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we've already tackled 13 earlier this evening, so on to 14, which is business operations. Item A, excuse me, contracts over $25,000 for November 2024. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you. So I have one contract, and this contract was roughly touched upon when we were in the facilities, on one of the facilities agenda item. This is the architect fees. This is for Casa Studios to support with the primary school re-roofing project. And just for transparency purposes, our architect, Trent Summers, did say that if the board isn't, if we're not at a place where we're ready to approve this, that we can definitely revisit. But in order for Trent to move forward and do some architectural work so that we can get going on this project, we will need a contract, even if it's for a smaller amount. You'll notice that on this contract, it is for about, I think, $340, but what was presented in the primary school, in the facilities agenda, you'll see that the architect fees was broken to $360. There's about a $20,000 buffer for contingency purposes, so I wanted to point that out as well, just in case you were wondering, like, well, it's less here. And then the contract is also broken into two phases, phase one and then phase two, which is totals the $340 for the entire contract. But right now we're focusing on the phase one of the contract, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? So the ask, to be very clear tonight, is basically just the top line of the 42.5.
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right. And so if nobody has any questions, is there a motion to approve the contract over $25,000 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 14B is Proposition 28, Arts and Music in Schools Plan. Dr. Vang again, please.
Thank you. So this is our Prop 28 plan for this school year, and the plan this year includes spending down funds from last school year. If you recall, what I previously shared is that for each fiscal year, whatever our allocations for each site, we have a 3-year period to spend the funds. Last school year, the only school that fully spent their funds was the high school. And so this year, in addition to the allocation for all sites, we are also spending down the allocations, last year's allocations for the primary school, the elementary school, and the middle school. This year, the only planned expenditure for the high school is the piano accompanist that's tied with the RLS expenditure to support with our choir program. However, similar to the ELOT program, when you look at these allocation from year to year, you'll notice a decrease. And so for this year, we're not planning on spending the high school allocation because we're going to combine it with next year's allocation. So that way, if Mr. Cento and the high school team want to bring back, for example, the 0.2 FTE arts teacher or the 0.2 FTE band, that is a possibility. So we do have some things some ideas in place that we'll need to solidify with our administrators. And then we've got this year, as you heard from our student representative, Sunny, earlier, we do have programs both at the primary school and the elementary school, and their after-school programs. And we will continue to build on these programs, work with our administrators to build the programs, expand the programs, and ensure that we expend our allocation in the 3-year time frame so that we don't lose these fundings. For transparency purposes, we're sharing these, the Prop 28 plans. However, the Prop 28 plan actually does not need to be board approved. It's just information, but we will post it on our district website for transparency as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Understood on that. So if I'm I'm sorry, is there any public comment on this agenda item? Okay, trustees, questions?
I actually, the art and drama, it's after school. Where is this happening?
The music is happening at the primary school. So Mr. Binder is teaching the after-school program over at the primary school for TK1, and then TK and 1. And then second graders are joining the elementary program after school at the elementary site with Miss Kilparis for art.
And so it's not in Boys and Girls Club.
It is not. It is part of Boys and Girls Club in a sense that these are some of the same. You know, we have an enrollment. Okay, we have an enrollment. So kids who've signed up, some of these kids may already be in the Boys and Girls Club, so they can participate as well. We can't exclude them, if that makes sense.
So kids that don't go to Boys and Girls Club can also participate?
Yes, because it's a program that's open to all students. So
making sure.
my understanding is Miss Principal Rocha has sent out permission slips, and so the programs at her site, she's got permission slips for students to participate. There's one of the session is like a parent and student session where parents can participate as well, because Mr. Binder is he's holding several sessions there.
Okay, thank you.
So how does it work? I'm curious if the TKers go to little backpacks and they get on the bus after school, they couldn't participate?
No.
It would just be...
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I guess my only concern is continuity. So we have the orchestra program this year, which is successful. We have the teacher has received professional development this summer to help him have a successful year with the students. So how do we ensure that there's orchestra next year?
Well, good news. If you look at the chart that I've attached there, if you look up there, you'll notice that last year the middle school only spent $5,165 out of their 23-24 allocation. You'll notice the years there. And so Brandon Binder's position, his .2 position this year, is actually paid with the remaining last year's remaining allocation plus this year's allocation. So there is still a balance from RLS's allocation, current year allocation that we will use in addition to next year's allocation. See, it sounds confusing, but I really have it organized here. To continue the program. So
Is the allocation the same amount every year?
No, that's what I just shared earlier is this amount. If you notice, last year it was $34,086 for RLS. This year it's $31,000. So you'll notice the allocation for each of the sites, and you'll notice a slight decrease from year to year. And I am anticipating that decrease from year to year unless the state's budget improves.
So do we put the popular program, the ones that we want to have continuity, do we put those at the top of the preferential list, and then can we pull a fund to help, like fund from somewhere else? Like if it's a matter of $5,000.
We can supplement, for example, last school year, the high school, when you look at the high school budget, the high school allocation was $60,560, and they were actually overspent by $10,000. So we actually did a contribution from our general fund to Prop 28 to support.
Now, is that that 60,000 last year at the high school, was that what the state through Prop 28 allocated for our high
Yes.
school?
Mhm.
Okay, so we don't, got it. Okay, so that answers that question.
Can I pop in on HR just
Please,
very quickly?
please, yes.
So one of the challenges that we face here is all of our staff are 1.0 FTE fully funded, and Prop 28 was meant to fill in some of the gaps in other places where they don't have full-time teachers. So all of these positions that you see here are outside of their regular 1.0 FTE, and it's their teachers annually or certificated staff annually are only allowed 1.0 each year, and then it becomes a new year in 25-26, and everything's kind of needs to be reposted. So nothing is guaranteed as far as that goes, if that makes sense. You're only guaranteed your 100% of your salary of your 1.0 FTE, and the rest of it becomes kind of a annual posting that we need to do. And so I think Dr. Vang was trying to state that each site has a different amount, and we can subsidize that to create that orchestra program potentially every year. But if we do that for one site annually over and over again, then the other 3 sites might start to say, well, wait, I want to have this too, right? And so then it becomes, how much are we going to sustain in a unknown Prop 28 funding annually? I think Dr. Vang has indicated that it's going to decrease next year, so it may not even be a full less than a full 0.2 for funding. So it's really challenging for us.
I bet.
It really is. And it's a moving target. And that's why, in working with the principals to find the best offerings that we could do in the afternoon or in the morning in the orchestra case,
Sure.
those are our constraints. And so it makes it really hard for us to develop a plan that is truly viable.
Yeah, I get it. It is complicated and frustrating. I guess my only ask is, if a beloved program is to go away, for there to be communication with the student and parent community as to why it's no longer here. Right. I know that the guitar, like for example, the guitar class, there was disappointment and confusion.
I can also state that all the
Or
teachers,
maybe
the teachers that are taking
shouldn't
part
have
of
said you
this are
didn't.
aware this is temporary funding annually.
Yeah.
And going into it, that it's nothing that we're guaranteeing that is sustainable.
But just that the greater community understands too. I feel like did that happen last year, that they were made known of it?
I can't speak to. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
there was a very awkward moment at the concert. That's what you're referring. Yeah.
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 That sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So
Oh, go
with
ahead.
that though, I do know that our community and our parents and our certainly our students really do enjoy the arts education, and whatever we can do to keep art education in our district would be wonderful for many people, including I think us trustees as well. So I feel gratitude with this money here, and I hope that we can stretch it out as long as we can. But if once it starts it slims down, once it starts decreasing, I hope that we can kind of start saying, well, is there any money in the general fund that we could go towards arts education? So that's just my spiel for tonight.
That's your goal.
Thank you.
Thank
Noted.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else, trustees? Okay. Let me go where I am. I think we're okay. 14C, review and consider approval of a transfer of $5 million from Fund 01 to Fund 40. Dr. Vang, please.
Okay, everyone take a deep breath. All right, so during the October 30th facility study session, I had said that I would be back today to ask the board for an interfund transfer to ensure that we can physically meet the needs of these three projects, the solar project, the EV bus infrastructure, and the primary re-roof dry rot repair project. So I wanted to start with the primary school. So the funding will include $1 million from Fund 25, which are developer fees, because we do have funding there that is, and this is an appropriate expenditure, so we can use some money out of our developer fees for that, and then the remaining would have to come from the interfund that I am today asking for. Then I want to look at our solar project, and I've also attached an estimated project cost list there. And if you recall, so Gopal was here. Gopal Shankar, Mr. Shankar is our consultant, energy consultant, and one of the things he has shared at our facilities study session is that this amount is contingent upon what we actually include in our PPA in the end, right? Some of these costs that are listed here in the list here, there is a possibility that we can add it to our PPA. However, that would increase our cost, and I think I included some of that in our Friday, or did I send it? I know I can't remember where I sent the info, but so it just depends on how we want to go about this. Some of these can be covered in the PPA, but it would increase our costs for the PPA. So, looking at our overall estimated project cost, it's going to be about over $5 million, and then we've got the power purchase agreement, which is about $4 million. So the district's out of cost pocket is that 86. Okay, where did that screen go? Thank you, Erica. Yes, would be that 898,000, right? So that could be our possible district out-of-pocket cost, depending on how we want to proceed. And Mr. Shankar and I will be back to give the board more, your options later on down the line, so that you can decide. But right now, I do want to set aside the funding for this, just to ensure that
Sure.
we have this, okay? And then the last project that I wanted to share with you is the EV bus infrastructure. And you have the cost, you have the breakout costs there as well. And if you recall, at the May 19th regular board meeting, the board had approved the bidding process for the contract for the EV bus charging station. And so the lowest bid came in around $457,000. We have a gate, and hopefully you all had a chance to review the photos and the videos of the gate and why that is necessary. I do apologize that didn't get to you sooner. So moving forward, I will ensure that you get information in advance. But there is a cost for that gate to ensure that both the new electric buses can get in and out of the bus depot where the chargers are currently located. So there's some infrastructure costs, but as I've previously shared, we have grants that we are also we also have, and I think that was Not to say that that was an excuse why things didn't get to you, but we were on a very tight timeline as well. We had some grants that we were working with, one of them being the Carl Moyer, which is also tied with the Bay Area Quality Management. And then we also have our PG&E grant, our rebate incentive. So we've got these two grants that we're working with, and if my calculation, based on my calculation and what we are projected to receive in both grants, the district's total, the district's estimated cost is about $629,000. So if there are numbers that you want me to look at breaking out or numbers that you need clarification on, I am more than happy to do that and provide that. If not today, I'll get it to you. And I think that's a lot of information for right now.
So I'm looking.
I just need to ask,
Yes,
excuse me?
yes.
Is there any public comment on this agenda item? Thank you. Trustees, any questions on the agenda item?
So Kate, you're talking about the PG&E rebates?
Yes.
Okay, so those two, the infrastructure and the chargers, that will be our little savings there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, take the savings where you can.
And then so for the costs, then is it the 199? Is that what that is? 199,420? Is that the estimated what we're thinking that we're going to have to pay? This is for the
The bus charger? No, it's scroll. Right here. Erica, can you scroll down to the bottom? You're on the right one, the EV bus infrastructure. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. Up a little
Just
bit
right.
more. Right there. So
The
it's
little
that
boxes.
that little box that says estimated total district cost $629,400.
629,000? Oh, wow. What is this 199,000? That's the construction cost. That's the cost. Is that just the soft costs?
Yeah, those are the estimated soft costs, and you can see there's a contingency there for $65,000 as well.
Okay. I don't understand. We'll get back. I'll meet with you.
But Trustee Kerr, are you comfortable making a vote tonight?
Well, I don't know if we really have a choice.
Well, I mean,
really, you know.
Yeah, I just want you to feel comfortable if you're going to cast a vote, that you have the information that you need.
Well, so our district cost is 629,000 is what the estimate is, and then so the PG&E. Does this include any of the rebates that we got from the buses or anything?
Yes. So if you and Erica, can you scroll up to the top one, just a little higher up? Oh yes, right there. Okay. A little slightly down. Okay. So yes, all the way up. Okay. So right there, if you look at that, so the switchgear. The infrastructure costs is about $26,000 after you take out what we're going to get from the grant. So the total grant amount that we're getting is the $72,783. So that's the grant that's paying for that's for the infrastructure. The buses are on the bottom where you see A through Z bus costs, $95,806. That's after the $895,000. So the total for both buses was about $895,000. The grant paid for $800,000, so that left us with the balance of about $95,000. So that's where you see that $95,000, because that's what's our cost after the grant, the $800,000 for the two buses. So these grants include it's two parts, right? There's the infrastructure and then the bus. So we've got the bus, we've got $800,000 for the buses, so that gives us a remaining balance of $95,000 on our end. And then for the infrastructure, it's about $26,000 after the Bay Area quality grant, which is about $72,783. And then on top of that, we also have the PG&E rebates for infrastructure and for the charger. So you see those amounts on the bottom. And so when you take the total cost and then I deducted all of the incentives, the rebates, our estimated cost is $629,000.
So the big dollar amount was the GCCI contract?
Yes, and that
this
was the lowest bid
And that is
got.
for the infrastructure?
Yes.
So
Yes.
the consulting work for the infrastructure?
The actual digging, the trenching.
Right.
Mhm.
Running all the equipment. And
Right.
Buses cost 95,000 to us. All this
No, I
cost
get
is
it,
all
but
the
I just
infrastructure.
I guess, you know, I mean, we can't look in the past, but it's just like with this whole project, we thought that I didn't expect it to be this much with this project.
I agree.
Dr. Vang, if I may, and I apologize if you covered this and I missed it, would there be a risk of losing any of these rebates or any other significant risks if the board were to take a month to get a little more information and feel more comfortable about this before we bring it back in December?
Well, that's been part of our struggle, right? With these
Right.
grants, they have these tight timelines, so we've had to move at a much faster pace. Generally, what we would do is we would come to the board and have a bigger picture of what needs to be done. But in this case, it's almost like putting the cart before the horse, where we're chasing them, we're chasing grants that have already been applied for, we've gotten, and now we've got to deal with the infrastructure, which is a huge cost, a much larger cost to the district than we had originally anticipated.
I'm just sensing, I never want the board to feel like you're backed into a corner, that you have no choice.
Well-
It is a lot of money. And I guess my question is, if we push this vote to December, are we beyond deadlines for those rebates, or are we still within the window?
We are still within the window, but it's going to be a tight window because I was going to, until the board approves this, if you recall, I was going to do the transaction, the transfer in two transactions, one in December and one in April. So if we push this to December, that's like the latest we can push this to.
And we also have a workshop on November 20th that we could add an item to if you want more time.
Well, so the thing is time would be nice, but I don't think we really, I mean, we're committed to this project because we already have our buses.
We have our buses.
We have our buses.
yeah.
And so what's charging them now?
We have both the chargers, but they're right now they've been they're temporary. So what we're working on is making sure that they're permanently installed, because right now they're just temporarily installed because we had to get the switch gears in place. There are some other work that need to be done before we can actually move them from their temporary locations to their permanent locations in the bus, which you hopefully saw in the photos and the videos. So we have the chargers. That's how we've been charging both buses.
Can we just use those temporarily?
No.
Forever?
So
Unfortunately, no.
So the permanent stations, charging stations, is what causes an issue with safely getting the buses in and out. But the temporary positions, they're capable of getting in and out of the gate.
Well, they're not getting in and out. They're actually parked outside the gate, charging outside the gate.
I see.
So
Okay.
right now, the temporary one is right along the gate, not the gate, but the brick wall. And it's being pulled over the wall to charge the bus that's parked outside.
And why do they have to be behind the gate? Why can't we put charging station somewhere? Is there another place on campus to put the charging stations for the buses? Why do they have to be
permanent?
Yeah, the permanent. Why do they have to be behind the gate in that
Well,
area?
right now, it's the temporary one, they're charging outside of the
Right.
gate, but we're going inside the gate. We're gonna have a secure location inside.
But my question is it because for safety reasons that we have to have the buses parked behind a gate? Like, why can't their permanent parking area not be behind that gate?
Because you're talking about 2 buses and you're talking about taking up parking spaces outside where we wouldn't have other parking spaces. And if you recall, where the transformer is, where PG&E is doing their trenching, their work for us, the further we are from the transformers, the more the cost will be to the site. So based on what PG&E, our infrastructure and where the transformer is, this was like the best location for us without costing us even more money.
Okay. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why can't we just put them out front, get rid of those parking spaces, and have those specifically designated spots for two buses? Because we've got plenty of street parking and other parking in that area.
We've actually had engineers out there with PG&E. We've met with them, and based on the underground survey and what has been recommended to us based on our site visits with PG&E and the Bay Area Quality Grant, this was the best solution that we can come up with.
Okay.
And then I would imagine when it comes to weekends or school's not in session, the buses need to be parked behind the gate. They need to be charging.
Right.
We're not going to leave them on the street for 3 weeks at Christmas break, so to speak. Wouldn't. I mean, I'm thinking that these are all potential, pebbles.
So are there any other fees that we're not aware of? Is there any annual fees to PG&E or paying for EV or anything else that we need to pay
The
for?
EV chargers are ours. I mean, we've paid for them. So
And
the
how
EV,
long would they last?
there's a warranty on them, and I don't remember at the top of my head, but there are warranties on them. But as you know, with technology, it's like the minute you buy it, you turn around. I mean, there's already solar in itself that comes and goes. So I would have to check on our warranty, number one, because we do have warranty on the chargers that we have. How long is it going to last? We've
And
got
how long
it.
will is it going to be another, however much, $629,000 to replace you said how long they're going to last.
Right.
And if it's is it 2 years and then we're doing this again then?
No, my understanding was these would last. We've got a 5-year plan through PG&E for these EV chargers. So again, I would have to check our warranty on this, but I think the warranty was only for 2 years for the chargers.
So can I interject something here? I'm in agreement with Dr. McClay here. I think we need to not December. I would suggest that we put this on our November 20th. And my request to be efficient in this is to get your specific questions to Dr. Vang prior to November 20th. Let's add it on to our study session, that she has time to specifically answer those questions for us, because we are somewhat backed up against a wall. The buses are here. The wheels are in motion. So, but I want, whether or not it's a begrudging yes that you put a vote to it or not, I think it's important to get your questions answered. And I can sense that it's not sitting super great at the moment. So how does everybody feel about that? That you put your,
It's fine. I don't feel like there's any alternatives.
I agree. I think we're just in shock because when we talked about the buses, and we haven't been on the board as long, we thought that we had grants and, we're going to pay $5, $10. I mean, I think this is just shocking, and nothing against UK. I know I think we just are kind of in shock. We thought this was there are these grants and we're going to have the buses, and I think none of us
We didn't even think
pictured
about the
this.
expense.
Yeah.
We didn't even think about this amount of expense.
So do you need time?
would you like a little more time? We're talking about a week, not
I'd
even
be
a
ready
week.
to move ahead because I don't know that I don't feel like there's an alternative. We have to. We can't.
I mean, yes, because the alternative is to send Dr. Vang back to the drawing board to work with another consultant to pay more fees to figure out where somewhere else to do this. And then that increases the cost of the transformer, you know.
Yeah.
I know that the message is very clear that this is not a position we like to be in. I know that has been talked about, and we understand we've been at this long enough to know that costs come up after the fact. This is a high price tag. I'm not dismissing that it's not a high price tag, but this is where we're at. We're not going to let 2 new EV buses sit and not be used. So I think that we might be cutting off our nose to spite our face if we give a directive to find other options when that's just going to cost more money to find other options.
And there may not be other options.
And there may not be.
Okay.
So if we spend
Yeah.
another $80,000, $100,000 in consultant fees, only to be told we have to go back, we now have spent $729,000 to determine that that's where we're at.
And
you know.
nothing's going to change the warranty either at this point.
No.
No, but maybe Dr. Vang, if you could get that answered, and I think it's also green savvy to know how long that charger should last.
We have that information because the chargers that we purchased were chargers that had to be on PG&E's list. We couldn't just buy any charger. It had to be on the list that was approved by both PG&E and the Bay Area Quality Grant in order for us to get the grant. So the chargers are specific to the grants that we received.
Totally understand that, but it just would be to their point, like what's the average lifespan of a charger? You know, and to know what that's going to look like. And because are we looking at a replacement cost? Probably not to that degree. In 3 years, in 5 years, what are we looking at?
Yeah.
So that's just part of a grand facility.
And then we budget for that.
And we budget for that. So, and I hope I'm not coming across aggressively. I just don't know what, to Trustee Moore's point, what our other options are.
It's important to hear that.
That is.
It's absolutely important to hear that.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to feel the pain one more time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And just so that the board knows too, we are actively seeking other grants because PG&E from time to time, year to year, they're coming out with new grants like this grant that we've received. We've been told that there are other grants that PG&E is working on. So we are actively seeking other grants. And when that does happen, I'll share that with the board because any grant that we get that's going to be attached to this project, to our solar, it's going to decrease our costs. So just please know that I'm doing my best to seek out as many grants as I can.
Thank you, Dr.
to
Vang.
decrease
Appreciate
the
that.
costs.
And just, my brain wandered there for a minute. On page 2, when you wrote in red, PG&E fronting money, one site, what money is that they're going to cover?
That is the $24,000 for the infrastructure and the $120,000 for the chargers. And once, because they've been trenching out there, if you are out there, you'll notice the PG&E's been doing some work out there. So as soon as our site is live, they're going to front us the money. This isn't one of those grants where you get it later on down the line. As soon as we're active, we get the money.
So are we subtracting that from the 629?
No,
it's already been subtracted.
It's already been subtracted from the 700.
Okay.
And I think what I would also recommend, because it is hard, just like we have with the tree conversation, you know, if you want to have like site visits with Dr. Vang and Dr. McClay, I wouldn't, you know, to see it in person with your own eyes, sometimes it makes a difference, just to understand it. So you can always set up those times with them. Okay.
I was going to suggest that as well, is if anybody wants a visit, I'm more than happy. Mike and I can set aside a little field trip, and you're more than welcome to come see it
Thank
for
you.
yourself. Because I think just like when we had to walk over, when we had to meet over at RLS for that change order, I think when you see it, you'll understand why the cost is what it is and why we are where we are. So I think if I'm open to any field trips anytime.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vang.
President Pelosi, I think that I'd rather just vote tonight.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, I'm getting,
Yeah.
I'm getting the nods. So,
Yeah.
Getting the nods.
okay, so with that, trustees, is there a motion to approve the transfer of $5 million from Fund 01 to Fund 40, the special reserve for capital outlay as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
Trustee Mora.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you for the robust conversation and for your time and patience with us as we continue to learn. Okay, future agenda items. You can see what's going on there. We have a special session on November 20th regarding negotiations. December 12th is our regular board meeting. And I'm probably not going to talk anymore because everybody can read the bullet points. Followed by another special closed session on December 16th. So, do you have any subjects for future agenda items? And I'll say no. No, I'm kidding.
No. Will the DOC application overview, we discuss if we're changing numbers or is
So
that's what will?
Yes.
No, not on that item.
Not on that item.
That is just an overview. The window will have closed for the
Okay,
upcoming school year.
that
so
you're
it's
going to
just
give us the report of the data of once the window's closed.
Thank you.
Okay, the lottery happens
The lottery happens in January.
in January. Thank you.
Back to an old school style with the balls.
We are?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Fun. Okay, well, with that, trustees, thank you, and thank you, staff, for being with us tonight. I know it was a little on the long side. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
Trustee Mora.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye. Motion carried. Meeting ended at 9:49 p.m. Thank you, everybody.